What up? What up? What is up, everybody? Thank you guys for being here to another live stream. I'm your host, Citizen Man, and this is Citizen Man TV. That's right. Now, shout out to everybody that's here. Shout out to everybody that hit that like button. Make sure you do hit that like button. If you haven't already, please do. And for you guys over on Rumble, hit that like button and say what's up in the chat. Say what's up in the chat, man. You say something in the chat, you stimulate that algorithm, you get more people to the show. I show up on more people's news feeds. That's how it works. So if you guys want to see the channel grow, I need your help. That's how we do it. So tonight's topic, reading the chessboard. Enemies are friends and friends are enemies. Truth inverted. Now, I'm sure you all know that we're living in an upside down world. And if you haven't figured that out by now, well, let me tell you, almost everything that we were raised to think was the truth, we're now starting to find out that, well, it ain't that. It's more of a lie than the truth. From our history to our economics to our political structure to the medical system, the food industry, the educational system, everything that we were told was in existence and operating in our best interest, we've now come to learn that most of that was a lie. But here's the other part. When you figure that out, you start to quickly find out who your friends are and who your enemies are. And there's millions of people in this country who are serving the enemy, and they honestly believe that those people are their friends and have their backs. The biggest example, the entire Democratic voter base. The people that support the Democratic Party are supporting their enemies, open, declared enemies. They don't even try to hide the shit anymore. But they're propagandized and made to believe that these people, hang on a second, that these people are their friends. So when their friends get on TV and start advocating for illegal aliens and foreign nationals to basically infiltrate and occupy our country, well, they're going to fall in line and work in conjunction with these enemies who have convinced them that they are their friends. Now, that's on the domestic level. And the same entities, the same media entities that would have you believe that these Democrats are your friends, they have America's best interest at heart. They're the same ones that are telling you that Donald Trump is the enemy. They try to turn women against him by calling them sexist. They try to turn black people and non-white people against him by calling them racist. They try to turn his fellow Republicans against him by calling him a right-wing extremist. But at least for the majority of Americans, that has not worked. And the more time goes by, the more events transpire, is the more people start to see that, wait a minute, Donald Trump isn't our enemy because he's doing a lot of shit in our favor. Not only that, I don't like the man, I don't support the man, but since he's been in office, a lot of things, a lot of corruption has been revealed that was hidden in previous presidencies. So something is definitely up and something is definitely different about this Trump situation. People are starting to see that. People are starting to see it that way. And that's good, because what's been working in the enemy's favor is they have been able to hide very important facts and bits of information from the public and only give them one side of the story. And because they've been so successful in doing that, they've convinced a large portion of the population that this one side of the story is the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And you would be in error to believe anything otherwise. But then some of us, we would dig a little deeper. We don't just go based off what they tell us or what they say. We start looking into it for ourselves. For example, when CNN started calling Trump a white nationalist, Trump did a whole speech publicly on camera, on record, never mentioned the word white one time, but he did say he's a nationalist, and there's nothing wrong with that. Being a nationalist just means that you have your nation's best interest at heart. And some may agree with your methods and some may not, but you're doing it with the sole intention of trying to make life better for the people of your nation. And it's funny because the Democrat Party, they are not nationalists. They are internationalists, or as some would call it, globalists. I don't like that word globe because there is no globe. But anyway, and they do not want American sovereignty. They want to open up America to the rest of the world and let everybody come in and get a free ride and bring us under international law. That's their job, and that's their mission, and that's their goal. The Republican Party has a lot of members of its party that seem to share the same sentiment, but they're a little more covert about it, and they support more pro-America policies. And then on the other side of the Republican Party, you got the patriots who love America, are America first, and do not wish to compromise with the internationalists and their international law. And Donald Trump seems to be one of those Republicans that is not willing to compromise with the international combines, and he wants to preserve America's sovereignty. And now it seems like he has a vested interest in preserving the sovereignty of every country here in the West, mainly in Latin America. And the reason why those nations' sovereignty is important is because when you have cartel bosses and drug lords and drug traffickers and human traffickers running the country, what happens is all these nations that are supposed to be independent and sovereign, they're literally all governed by the same criminal organization. So they'll all be under the same rules. So a legitimate businessman would get extorted by the drug lords in Venezuela, just like he'd get extorted by the drug lords in Mexico. You see? So there is no sovereignty anymore because everybody is under the same umbrella. And that's what the Democrat Party and the deep state Republicans have done to this country. This is why in all across our country you'll find these democratic cities and states where there's no second amendment. Because under international law, gun ownership is considered a crime. Everybody must be disarmed. Under international law, all drugs, including marijuana, must be illegal. People must go to jail for their freedom of choice. Do you know the drug laws here in America? The wording is the exact same wording that's written in the UN, the pact that the UN wrote and passed out to its member nations. And this is how the one world government functions. They get together at these UN meetings. They come up with laws. They write it into legislation. And then each nation, each member nation takes that legislation back home in the translation of their own language. And then they pass it in their congressional sessions. And the president or prime minister, whoever is in charge, signs it into law. And now these international world government rules now become law in these sovereign nations. Thus, these sovereign nations lose their sovereignty. So instead of it being drug lords and human traffickers being the singular combine that controls all of these member nations, it's the big banks and the big industries and the lobbyists. And of course, the sex traffickers, because they're the ones that provide the food for the perverts. They cater to the perverts. And a lot of these world leaders, for some odd reason, happen to be perverts. And so many of them are perverts that the fake news media has even been able to convince almost half of America that Donald Trump is one of these perverts when there's no record or no accusation, no credible accusation of him being a pervert. In fact, it's well known that he's a germaphobe. And it's very hard to be a pervert when you're a germaphobe. Because I'll tell you right now, if you're afraid of germs, you're not eating ass. Or you're not doing piss play. And this is what the Democrats, excuse me, try to put on Trump back in 2016 when he ran the first time. This is what the whole Russia Gate and the Russian dossier was all about. It was accusations of Trump having sex with prostitutes at some hotel in Russia where they peed on them. And everybody who was somebody that knew anything about Trump immediately knew that was bullshit because Donald Trump is a germaphobe and germaphobes don't play that shit. So then people began to question. And then later on, it came out that Hillary Clinton paid some British MI6, some former MI6 clown to write this fake document and hand it over to the Obama administration as if it was legitimate intelligence. And then they used it in the media to try to smear Trump. And the Democrats even went so far as to enlist a special prosecutor by the name of Robert Mueller. You guys remember the Mueller investigations, right? They got Robert Mueller to investigate Trump for 2 years, from 2017 to 2019. And at the end of 2019, oddly enough, right before COVID happened, Trump was vindicated. Robert Mueller came out and gave his report and said, hey, we looked into this guy from top to bottom, and he's clean as a whistle. We got nothing on him. And then shortly after that, the pandemic happened because they needed something to distract away from their monumental failure. And it worked because people fell for it. And this is why now you see them trying to resurrect the same old lies about Trump, trying to connect Trump to Epstein and Trump being a pedophile and all this dumb shit. And because they've had 10 years to lie to the public and keep repeating the Trump bad narrative, now they're getting people 10 years later to buy into this crap when, again, Trump was investigated from 2017 to 2019 for 2 years straight, and they came up with nothing. They came up with nothing. Then his crooked lawyer, Michael Cohen, comes up with the Stormy Daniels and the hush money situation. And then they cling on to that to try to give Trump felony charges before the election. Guess what? That case got appealed and it's thrown out. And they did all this in the name of protecting America from the evil Trump. But yet they can't tell us one single thing evil that Trump has done to the American people. Some people scream about Operation Warp Speed. That too, I can understand, because these people, again, lack certain bits of information and facts that would most definitely change their perspective on Operation Warp Speed. And I'll give you some of those facts tonight. But this is what I mean in the beginning when I said your enemies are able to convince you of certain narratives because they leave out very important facts. Just like when that woman in Minnesota got shot by the ICE agent, they were able to convince the public that the shooting was unjustified and she was just some innocent mother on her way to go, be productive in life. And that's the way they try to spin it. And people started believing it. Why? Because they left out the fact that she was a member of an organization whose stated purpose was to impede ICE. And they have certain means and methods by which they train their operatives to do so. And one of those means and methods is by using their vehicles as roadblocks and or weapons if they feel it's necessary. And there's been several incidents across the country by either illegal aliens themselves or these activists, these anti-ICE activists, where vehicles have been used to try to run over agents. So this wasn't a one-off incident. This was something that happens quite frequently. In fact, maybe a day or two later, after the woman in Minnesota got Swiss cheesed, a Venezuelan Tren de Aragua couple, they got lit up too for doing the same thing, the exact same thing. And how is it that American citizens can be convinced to advocate for foreign nationals coming into our country who don't give a shit about us and who will be put first in line by the politicians that brought them in here? They'll be put first in line to reap all the benefits of our tax dollars. What American citizen in their right mind would advocate for that? And that question right there lets you know that every single person advocating for this, they are not in their right minds. They have been radicalized, they have been brainwashed, and they have been fed a false narrative for 10 years straight. And they spent their entire lives believing that their enemies are their friends. And now that it's being revealed that it's the other way around and the truth has been inverted, they can't come to grips with that. So they're doubling down on the lie. They're becoming more passionate. They're becoming more aggressive. And because they know in certain cities they have the backing of the politicians that run those cities, they don't fear consequences. In fact, they feel so emboldened because you got sheriffs and police chiefs making public statements implying to them that what they're doing is okay. And not only is it okay, but it's the right thing to do. And these law enforcement officials, they too are lying to you. And remember, your friends don't lie to you like this. Your enemies do. And they're using every puppet and talking head that they can find who is in a position of power and influence to try to push this dumbass narrative. But this is bigger than illegal aliens, ICE, Trump, and the liberal establishment. This is bigger than that because this is worldwide. Breaking CNN report. Iran would respond to a U.S. attack by launching 500 Kyber missiles at Israel. And I talked about this in one of my short form videos that I uploaded I think it was last night or early this morning. So if you guys want to go check out my videos, I'm going to start doing that now because I've been spending a lot more time in the studio during the week since I haven't been, working that much, and the season's pretty much come to a standstill. I got more time during the nights and the evenings now. So I'll spend that time making videos and doing uploads because people seem to enjoy those short form presentations as much as they enjoy the live stream. So I'm going to start giving you guys shorts, more videos, more clips, more cuts. And you feel free to take cuts and clips of my shit too. I don't mind. I would encourage you to. I don't do that whole copyright bullshit. I think that's bullshit when it comes to content and music and entertainment, but I can understand why retaining the rights to it would make sense because that's how you make your money. And if everybody could copy it and use it for free, then it becomes worthless. So I get it. But anyway, excuse me. The picture in the top left is Trump and the Saudi Prince bin Salman. He's the leader of Saudi Arabia. And the picture on the right, of course, is Trump, I believe, at either an AIPAC rally or a pro-Israel rally. And he's got the Zionist flags behind him. And in case you didn't know, the Saudis and the Israelis don't exactly get along too well. And Trump is good friends with the Saudis. And it also would appear as if he's good friends with Israel. But in being friends with the Saudis, there's still tension between the Saudis and the U.S. because the Yemenis, the Houthi rebels in Yemen that are fighting against occupation, they are closely supported in part by the Saudis, and the U.S. is at odds with the Houthis, or so it would appear. But when you think about it from a perspective of truth inverted, what you'll come to realize is Trump isn't exactly friends with the Saudis. They do have a similar agenda, but they're in competition with each other, friendly competition. And when it comes to Israel, that's one of the countries that Trump publicly constantly announces how friendly he is with them and how cool they are. And he's playing grab ass with Netanyahu at press conferences and all that shit. So everybody thinks he's owned by Israel. He's controlled by Israel and everything. And that's the optics. That's the way it appears. But again, you apply that truth inverted formula, and what do you get? Well, Trump must be opposed to Israel. Now, what proof or evidence do we have that he's opposed to Israel? And that's where it gets a little tricky, because there's more evidence to support the fact that he's friends with Israel. But there's certain factors that you have to take into consideration. And one of those factors is the fact that Israel literally has the United States held hostage. Israel has sleeper cells all around the world that are ready to carry out terrorist attacks once the order is given. And I have an example of that where they're doing it in South America right now as we speak. And because they have so many operatives and sleeper cells here in the United States who have not only infiltrated police forces, security forces, military forces, and are just straight black op forces, they also have infiltrators within the government. So Trump has to be very careful about what he says amongst these individuals, because they might be a mole, or there's always a mole or a rat who's going to report back to the Zionist controllers. And if the Zionist controllers decide that, hey, something's got to be done about this, we can't kill him because he's too well insulated, so let's go bomb an apartment building or something, then they make the call, the sleeper cell answers it. operation is set up. They find some Jewish property owner that's probably, behind on his bills and is losing money, and he's got a big insurance policy, so he'll profit greatly from his place being demolished, and they'll make a deal, and he'll agree to let them demolish the building with all his tenants inside and make it look like an accident, and he gets an insurance payout, and they get to carry out a mass casualty event. That reminds me of 9/11, because that's exactly how they got Larry Silverstein. He was losing money, so they offered him an opportunity to cash in on his insurance. So, and remember, Israel did 9/11. So, excuse me. So when you see Trump playing grab ass with Israel, it's for a reason. It's because the country is being held hostage. So in a sense, he's being controlled, but he's not being controlled by way of them forcing him or controlling him directly. It's like the shooter that all the other hitmen can't kill. So what do? They go kidnap his family, because then they can get compliance out of him. So they don't have to do anything to him directly, but the people that he loves and that he cares about, they put them under threat. Now they can get the same compliance as if they were able to subdue him and put him under threat. And in that example, as the president of the United States, Trump would be the untouchable hitman, but as the people of the United States, whom he's sworn to protect and represent, they have us under threat. And in him knowing that, he understands now that every move he makes against them on the chessboard has to look like it's a move in their favor. And that's exactly what he's been doing. And what's funny is I've seen him do this. We all saw him do this coming down towards the end of the pandemic, when he started talking about Operation Warp Speed. He started endorsing the vaccine and shit. Remember that? And I was telling people, don't get mad at Trump endorsing the vaccine, because it's going to have a more positive effect than negative effect. And here's why. Because the people who were smart enough to see through the lies and the bullshit, they're smart enough to see through the propaganda with the vaccine and the lies and the bullshit. And regardless of whether Trump says take it or not, they know not to take it. So Trump is not convincing anyone to take the vaccine. And as much as these liberals and leftists hate Trump, they'll always do the opposite of what he says. This is why when Trump came out and made that statement about Tylenol being tied to autism, all these liberal women started swallowing bottles of Tylenol, and a few of them actually killed themselves in a bid to prove Trump wrong. So when you have people out there that believe in the establishment narrative so much, and they hate Donald Trump so much that they would literally, out of the blue, just go out and do the opposite of what he said just because he said it, what do you think that would do with the vaccine? These people are pro-vaccine. So when Trump endorses the vaccine and says take it, they'll say, no, I'm not taking Trump's vaccine. So without even knowing it, without us even realizing it as patriots, Trump was actually trying to use reverse psychology to save those dummies. But of course they're dumb, so they went ahead and took it anyway. And not only that, but in pushing Operation Warp Speed, he did something monumental that killed any chance of them ever being able to legally mandate the COVID vaccine. He shut that shit down before they even got started with the mandate talk. And that's what Operation Warp Speed was for. But he had to play it as if he was on their side in order to get them to go along with it, even giving them billions of dollars in taxpayer money to, quote unquote, accelerate the production of the COVID vaccine. And it killed any chance of them ever being able to mandate it. That's why they couldn't mandate it by legislation in 2021 when it came out. They had to convince or force private businesses to mandate it, which was putting those businesses at risk because the smart employees were filing lawsuits and the businesses were going bankrupt because they were having to pay out these lawsuits. But that was just a small minority of people that saw through the bullshit. But the majority of the sheep, they went out and took it so they can keep their job. And that lasted a few months until the case came before the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court, of course, judges, knowing and understanding the law, they knew that there was no way that vaccine could have passed any safety tests because enough time hadn't passed. And thus, the vaccine must remain experimental and the mandate cannot be legally enforced. Thus, employer mandate struck down. All thanks to Operation Warp Speed. And now they can never bring it back up in legislation ever again to try to mandate it because they jumped the gun and put it out too early. And the other way he played it up to discredit these people and show them as enemies is he kept getting on camera with them. Remember that? He kept getting on camera with them, doing speeches with them until it was time to fire them. And then next thing you know, you started seeing old faces go away and new faces appear. And when the new faces appeared, the media, what they did was they stopped covering all the Trump press conferences where he was introducing the new people that were rolling back the restrictions and saying and putting out the truth about COVID. And they started giving interviews to the individuals who were formerly, on camera with Trump pushing the COVID narrative. So they were able to hide the fact that Trump had fired these people and they no longer had credibility, and still prop these people up as if they were credible individuals connected to the government somehow and have the authority to speak on the subject. And I'll give you a prime example. You can go look up all the videos of Trump and Fauci doing the press conferences, and Trump's, giggling with Fauci and he's kikiing and laughing with Fauci. And then by late 2020, I believe it was, Trump fired Fauci. Excuse me. He fired Fauci and he replaced him with Dr. Scott Atlas. And Dr. Scott Atlas was the guy that brought up the subject about the UV light being used to cure the virus. And Trump made mention that, hey, we could use this technology to cure all viruses. You could use it internally as, what do you say? As some sort of cleaning agent or something. He said something like that. And that's when the media went crazy saying, Trump said drink bleach, Trump said drink bleach. But they never once mentioned Dr. Scott Atlas. They never once mentioned the University of California Berkeley study that proved that UV light kills pathogens and viruses and bacteria. And they never brought up the fact that this was credible information. Yeah, disinfectant. Thank you, Tom. They never brought up the fact that this was credible information that could actually save lives. So they hid the fact that Fauci was no longer credible. They hid the fact that Trump's the information Trump and Dr. Atlas were putting out. In fact, they hid the fact that Dr. Atlas even existed. Then they hid the fact that the information that Trump was putting out came from actual experts. And they had to do all this in order to convince people that Trump was some sort of crazy person telling Americans to drink bleach. So instead of, and again, they did all this under the pretense of being your friend and looking out for you and saving you from this crazy man that told you drink bleach. When in reality, what they were doing was keeping you ignorant to the fact that UV light cures diseases. And in case you didn't know, UV lights and any protective gear you need to go along with it are a lot less expensive than cancer treatment. But they hid this information from you and demonized the person putting it out while pretending to be your friends. Truth inverted. And while Trump was pretending to be Fauci's friend, he was lining them up and getting America familiar with them so they would know him as the doctor that got replaced, that got fired because he was incompetent. But the mainstream media did a great job at covering that all up and making you believe that Trump didn't know what he was doing. But I saw what he was doing. He was putting these people out on Front Street so the public could get familiar with them and then discrediting them later on. Because it has a more lasting effect when this person is propped up as somebody that knows what they're doing and is who they say they are and everything like that, and everybody knows them and they're famous, and then it comes out that their whole shtick was a fraud in the first place. That has a more lasting effect because frauds get exposed every day. But the famous frauds, the ones that were famous and had the most credibility before they were exposed as frauds, those are the names we remember. And that's what Trump was doing by putting these people on camera and then firing all their asses. And the mainstream media, who pretend to be your friends and give you the information and keep you updated, they lied to you and they hid life-saving information from you because they would rather see you sick and die than listen to Donald Trump and realize how full of shit they were. Those are not friends looking out for you. Those are enemies trying to control you. That's what that was. And it kind of disappoints me a little bit when I see, very intelligent people like my good brother Sanchez, for example. He can't stand Trump. But one thing I can say is at least he's consistent because he constantly makes it clear that he doesn't trust or like any presidents. So Trump being a president, if that's his stance, then I got to give him that. But there's lots of facts and information that he's missing. And I kind of feel a little slighted, and I feel like they're intended on pushing the agenda over there because it's very difficult when I get on the panel and I try to bring these facts to the conversation. I'm constantly being cut off. I'm constantly being overtalked. And then as more and more people come on, I kind of just get drowned out because I'm not going to sit there and shout over nobody. If I want to shout, I'm going to come on my show and do it. But I'm a gentleman. So if I'm on somebody else's show, I'll behave myself. But let me give you these facts, because if we're about truth, let me give you this truth. And if you guys saw that discussion that we had about the Minneapolis shooting with that woman and the ICE agent, that's kind of what happened over there that day. I mean, granted, I was able to get some stuff out, but then I started getting cut off and drowned out and overtalked. And it was just like, okay, I guess they don't want to hear the facts. They want to do the same shit the mainstream media does. Hide facts so they can give everybody a certain impression and push a certain narrative. And that's what it came off as. And I hate to say it. And it's really disappointing because I hold these brothers in high esteem and I view them to be, more intelligent people than that. So it kind of makes me feel like it's being done on purpose. But I can't sit here and openly make the allegation. But I do have a right to say how I feel and what I think about those situations because, again, if we're about facts and truth and educating the people, and I'm the one that's well studied in this field, then why not let me speak as an expert in the field? Because at this point in time, we should all know the mainstream media is our enemy. So if we find ourselves hating the same people that they've been telling us to hate, something's wrong. We're missing something. And I got what you're missing. I know what's happening. I can read the optics and get the message hidden behind the optics. Here's another example. Trump and Putin. They're allied. They're strategic allies. The Russian military and the U.S. military are working together against Israel and the EU, the European Union. But you don't see Trump on camera with Putin laughing and giggling and playing grab ass, do you? No, you don't. But you see him with Netanyahu doing that shit. So now everybody knows Netanyahu is the guy that did the genocide in Gaza. Because surprisingly, there was a lot of people out there that didn't even know who Netanyahu was until that genocide started happening. But because of these optics, people now equate Trump to being on his side. But considering the fact that America is being held hostage by the Israeli terror cells, one can understand why those optics would be that way, even though the real true feelings and sentiments are not that way. And it's become more and more evident that those are the sentiments that Trump holds towards Israel, because when it comes to military aid, he's been selling higher, more advanced weaponry to nations that have tentative relationships with Israel, which means they could become Israel's enemies very quickly. And they've kind of taken a negative posture to Israel. Excuse me. Like Turkey, for example. Trump's selling F-35 fighter jets to Turkey. And it's a lot more than just 25. And you know what Trump did for Israel? He gave them 25 F-15s. 25 F-15s. You see the play? Israel has an Iron Dome missile defense system that they were using to shoot down missiles being fired at them from Iran and from Lebanon. Trump has not, and America was supplying them with the missiles for that defense system. Trump has not supplied them in over a year. Since he got reelected in 2025, Israel's Iron Dome missile defense system has ran dry, and Trump has not read them up. So he left them open. And he gave them the F-15s because they are the least optimal fighter jets, even though they're still effective because they're fighter jets, of course. But compared to the enemies surrounding Israel and the fighter jets that they have, the F-15s are going to catch hell. They're not going to be able to fight with that air power. So Trump has allowed Israel's enemies to acquire superior air power while giving Israel the old outdated shit that can't keep up with the advanced shit. He's left them open by not rearming their missile defense system. And when they just passed the $9 trillion spending package for the Department of Defense budget, Israel got $650 billion. Or was it $650 million? Yeah, it was $650 million. Sorry. And compared to $9 trillion, or was it $9 trillion or $9 billion? Yeah, it was $9 trillion. No. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. It was $9 trillion. I'm tripping. It was 900 billion. That's what it was. It was 900 billion. And Israel got 650 million. And the math works out to, if the U.S. passed a $9 spending bill, Israel got 0.065% of a penny. That's just over half a penny. And when you look at the military aid out of the DOD budgets under past presidents, the numbers were much higher. Out of that 900 billion under Obama, Israel would have got 300 billion. Which would have been $3 out of the $9 rather than half a penny. So Trump has definitely been showing his hand and moving in such a way that he is not in support of Israel anymore, and he's kind of leaving Israel out to dry while still proclaiming his alliance with Israel. So it's the inverted truth. What you're seeing, the truth is the inverse. And the reason why, again, Trump has to do it that way and he can't just completely pull the plug and bomb them or some shit is because they'll start bombing American civilians here in America if Trump does anything too drastic or too aggressive against Israel. So the way he's playing it is he's continuing to posture as their friend while simultaneously leaving them in a weakened state, while allowing their enemies to arm up and collapse in on them. And this is why Iran is threatening to level Israel if the U.S. attacks them, because the U.S. attack on Iran, once again, optically would be viewed as a pro-Israel move. But if that's the move that green lights Iran to level Israel, well, I think that's the move Trump's going to make, because then Israel can't blame Trump for that happening. And the reason why they can't blame Trump for that happening is because the trigger event that Trump carried out, which would be the bombing in Iran, well, that was done in their favor. Hey, Israel, you asked me to do this. How you mad at me now because I did this? That doesn't make any sense. So he's basically he's putting them in the trick bag is what he's doing, and he's creating a situation where enemies of Israel will destroy Israel rather than their great ally, the United States, who just kind of just left them hanging, left them out to dry. It's like Israel is like America's stupid little brother, right? He's a stupid little brother that goes around trying to bully everybody. And you as the big brother keeps telling him, hey, stop bullying everybody because they're going to beat your ass one day. I'm your big brother, so I'm not going to hurt you and I'm not going to beat your ass. I'll still buy you sneakers and shit. But I'm going to tell you as your big brother, stop bullying people because not everybody's going to lay down and take it, right? That's Trump and Israel, because Trump's been telling Israel, stop the bullshit you're doing. I'm going to still give you your money. I'm going to still give you your weapons and shit, but stop that bullshit you're doing. And they kept up with the bullshit. And when that little brother who thinks he's a bully meets a bigger bully, and that bigger bully whoops his ass, as his big brother, are you going to step in and save him and fight for him? No. You're going to step back and let that enemy whoop his ass and teach him a lesson. And that's exactly what's about to happen with Israel. And Trump will have more than one excuse to not help Israel, which I firmly believe he's not going to help Israel. He is going to use the war in Mexico, which he's about to kick off, as a reason for the U.S. military being tied up, and fears of nuclear war with Russia and China as a reason to fall back, because Russia is going to posture very aggressively against the United States in order to make the threat seem real. Because remember, if it's optics, but the purpose for the optics is to convince the public that things are a certain way when they're the opposite, well, you got to make it look real. And that's just the fact of the matter. But before I go too far, we're already 47 minutes in. What the hell? Make sure you guys go subscribe to the Citizen Man Backup channel. If you haven't subscribed to the Backup channel, please make sure you do. Because if they zap me over here on Citizen Man TV, you'll have to go to Citizen Man to get that message as to where to find me. Also, you can find me on Rumble. That's my new permanent home. So all the content that you can't find on YouTube will be available on Rumble. So get on over to Rumble and check out the content, man. And also, of course, last but not least, if you guys would like to support the show by sending in a kind donation, feel free, to hit that Cash App, PayPal, or Venmo by using the tag scrolling across the bottom of the screen. The links that are pinned to the top of the YouTube chat in the black box where it says Citizen Man TV in yellow. Just click the yellow. The box opens up. All the links are available, and you can also find these links in the description box of every video on YouTube and Rumble. And the red X through the PayPal is just to remind you guys that PayPal censors comments. So just keep it surface level. And by censors comments, I mean they'll steal your money and freeze your account because they didn't like what you say. So try not to say too much in the PayPal. And speaking of PayPal, I want to give a big shout out to my good brother Lee14224 with that faithful support on the PayPal, and my other good brother D Allen Warren with the Cash App. He says, flat mother effing power, salute to a great stream. Appreciate you, D Allen. Thank you for that, brother. So let's get it going. Your friends are your enemies, and your enemies are your friends. So this is an emergency alert message, and this was mentioned in the Q Clearance Patriot, where it said the emergency broadcast system will be activated to bypass the fake news media, the mainstream media, the controlled media, I believe is what the verbiage was. And here you have the message, which I did mention, but I didn't show it, but I'm going to show it now. It says EAM loyalists. And if you have an emergency broadcast system activated, what gets broadcast? Emergency alert messages. And this is the emergency alert message. Red 1, red 2, red 3, red 4, red 5, red 6. And all this describes what happens at the end of the 2020 election when the Biden show commences. And if you look at red 6, it says Secretary of Defense instruct U.S. Secret Service. U.S. Secret Service is Homeland Security, not Department of Defense. But under red 6, U.S. Secret Service, who is in charge of the presidential logistics and security, they were now under the Department of Defense, which means when I told you the military was running the Biden show, that's what was happening. And Castle Rock is the movie studio in which they use the fake White House set to broadcast the Biden administration. But what I want you to pay attention to here is red 4. Excuse me. And it says movement of military assets. And in brackets, it says 10th Mountain, 1st Marine, CPSD, Marine, QVIR to central locations under guise of citizen riot control. Under guise of citizen riot control. So if they're under the guise of citizen riot control, because that's what we're seeing the National Guard deployments now for, right? Citizen riot control and crime control, right? That's what we're seeing. But if it's only under that, if that's just the guise, then that means there's some other underlying purpose for them being there. And this gets into what I was telling you guys, what I've been teaching you guys about, which are these midnight raids and these secret special forces operations, because it is well proven and well documented that the National Guard does in fact have special forces units attached to their units and their battalions, and these special forces operators are classified as tier 2 operators. Now, tier 1 would be your guys that like the Navy SEALs and Delta Force and those guys, and tier 2 would be like your recon Marines and Army Green Berets and so on. And these guys are just, make no mistake about it, they are just as good as the tier 1 operators. And I think the only difference between the tier 1 operators and the tier 2 operators is that the tier 1 operators have excuse me, have more a larger array of skills outside of just their combat skills. So a lot of these guys, they're like tech guys, they're robotics guys, they're pilots, they what I'm saying? They got a vast, so they could operate in more diverse theaters of war, whereas tier 2 are more specialized, where they still have a varying skill set, but it's not as extensive as tier 1. So more high risk, high value missions would go to tier 1, and other complex missions that regular military can't carry out would go to tier 2. So when you have the National Guard deployments happening, you got tier 2 operators being deployed with them. And these are the guys that go out, they're out there in the day with the National Guard in their regular uniforms. And then at night, they put on the night vision goggles and they go raid your house and haul you away. And this is why the George Floyd riots died down so quickly, because once the National Guard was deployed, the tier 2 operators went out, cut off the funding, cut off the organization, and boom, no more protests. They tried to start them up again and they went nowhere. So now here we have the anti-ICE movement. And the anti-ICE movement is being coordinated and funded the same way the George Floyd riots were coordinated and funded. So the same mission has to occur. Military deployment under the guise of civilian riot control. And the real mission is snatch and grabs. And the nothing can stop what is coming acronym actually refers to an agency that is a conglomerate of liaisons from not only the Department of Defense, but also Homeland Security and Department of Justice. And these guys integrate with state law enforcement and local law enforcement and the NCWIS, or what is it? NCWIC. No, NCSWIC. Sorry, that's the acronym. NCSWIC. Nothing can stop what is coming. That's the acronym, but it's a real military acronym that describes, again, and it's sort of like a task force that integrates military units with civilian law enforcement. And that's the units, that's the operational playbook that's being used now, because it's now been discovered, thanks to Doge, that we have these, of course, thanks to the George Floyd riots too, that we have these literal domestic terrorist organizations here in the United States whose job it is to usurp the power of the president, to make sure that the puppets stay in control. And these are your paid protesters. These are your anti-ICE people, but they're not the real targets. The real targets are the people who are paying them, paying for the signs to be printed, paying for them to be transported from state to state, like Renee Good, and paying for the seminars and the meetings that they hold where they do this training and radicalize each other. Most Hated Jogger says, so ICE is tier 2. Not necessarily, because ICE is a total separate agency. ICE is not National Guard. I specifically mentioned the National Guard has tier 2 operators connected to them. But here's where the fun begins. Those ICE agents, a lot of them could actually, in fact, be tier 2 operators that are riding around with real legitimate ICE units, because they're making the IDs of the people who are involved with organizing and funding this, and they're the ones that are being listed as targets for the snatch and grab operations. Now, that's one possibility. But here's what I think is really happening. I think the tier 2 operators are being deployed with the National Guard and also with ICE. But there's also units that have infiltrated these movements, and they go to the Antifa meetings, and they go to the Black Lives Matter seminars, and they go to the Ice Watch Warriors conventions and shit. And they get to meet in person the targets that they're going to go after. I think that's the most effective intel gathering method that they could use. And they did it with Antifa during the George Floyd riots. They actually had National Guardsmen running around with the rioters, taking faces and names and shit. And then they had the special forces units go out and grab them. So ICE itself is not tier 2. ICE is a civilian law enforcement agency. Federal civilian law enforcement agency. They're Homeland Security, not Department of Defense. But thanks to NCSWIS, there's coordination between civilian law enforcement and DOD now. So it's quite possible that tier 2 operators are running around with those ICE agents. And that, in fact, would explain better why they're all masked up. Because if they run around barefaced and people start identifying them accurately, they'll start figuring out that a lot of these guys are tier 2 operators. And oddly enough, wouldn't you know, the guy that shot that woman in Minneapolis, he was a military veteran, and I believe he was a Special Forces military veteran. And it could be that he was called back into duty, and that's part of his duty, is rolling with ICE. And maybe that's why, of all the ICE agents that were there, he was the one that stood in the most dangerous position, because he was the one most capable of reacting if something were to go bad. And rumor has it that he saw a lot more than just his fair share of combat over in the Middle East. So this guy is super trained. Straight killer. So most hated jogger, ICE itself is not tier 2. Tier 2 operators they're crawling all over these cities right now. Now, the overall plan of basically freeing the world from the Khazarian mafia, let's just put it that way, was actually part of JFK's plan, and that's why they killed him. Because when he started announcing those plans, he thought, because he was the president, everybody in the agencies in the government and in the military would be loyal to the president, as the Constitution requires. But he was wrong. And he spoke too soon, too loud, and was silenced. This is why Trump has been able to make it so far and be successful for this long, because everything he's been doing is what JFK wanted to do, but Trump was doing it quietly. While pretending to play ball, he was doing everything to undermine their agenda. Take you back to Operation Warp Speed. He was pretending to play ball with the vaccine, wasn't he? And what did it end up resulting in? Him undermining their mandate agenda, right? You see, we as average citizens, a lot of us, we don't fully understand the mindset and the mentality you have to not only associate with people at such a high level in society, but how to oppose them, because they plan their shit out in generations, and they're very meticulous, and they cover all bases. That's why whistleblowers of the past never made it too far. That's why when shit came out about these presidents and these celebrities being involved in nefarious activities, it never made it too far. It all just got called conspiracy theory, tinfoil hat, it's lies, it's this and that. And people fell for it because that became the narrative. And so that lie became the truth. So the truth that everybody thought they were getting was actually the inverted lie. Was actually inverted, and it was the lie, I should say. And the truth got buried. Here, Q says, rest in peace, Mr. President, in reference to JFK. Through your wisdom and strength since your tragic death, patriots have planned, installed, and by the grace of God, activated the beam of light. And this was written in 2018. We will forever remember your sacrifice. May you look down from above and continue to guide us as we ring the bell of freedom and destroy those who wish to sacrifice our children, our way of life, and our world. We, the people. Prayer said every single day in the Oval Office. JFK secret societies. Where we go one, we go all. Kobe, don't insult my name, bro. Don't do that. I know you like coming in hot because you're a troll and shit, but I fucks with you, and I try my hardest not to insult you, and I think I've been doing a pretty good job at it. So please don't insult me and open that door. Please don't. You remember what happened last time, and it didn't go well for you, Kobe. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it to you again. Kobe says they try to pop me like JFK. Well, Kobe, here's the funny thing, right? Here's the irony of this all. You came in hot, insulting me. Now you're telling me that your life is in danger. Am I supposed to give a fuck at this point? After you just disrespected my name? You got to think, man. You got to think before you say shit. Because if you would have came in and said they try to pop me like JFK, you know what? You would have gotten a little more sympathy. You got to think, bro. You know? I know sometimes you want to just say shit and get it off your chest, but you a man, dog. Sometimes you got to just bury that shit. Because it sounds like you're here looking for advice or help or, you know, some support, but you're not going to get support from people you insult. So try not to insult people. Be a gentleman, you know? I think that's fair. And I'm not saying this to excoriate you. I'm saying this to try to make you a better man. That's all. But anyway, so Trump is carrying out JFK's agenda. He says, okay, man, continue. Bro, you're just asking to get blocked tonight. Don't tell me what to do on my damn show. But I will continue because that's what I'm here for. So it feels a little insulting, but at least thank you, Lord Spike. Timed him out for 5 minutes. I think that's good. And Kobe, you're getting good treatment right now because normally guys like you would get blocked permanently. But I guess Lord Spike has taken pity upon you because he hears how compassionate I am towards you. Because I know you're going through a tough time, and I don't want to make it any harder on you. But don't make it hard on me, because I will cook you. Right, Antara. Reading the room is important. You come in here telling us about your problems after you just insulted the host, and now I'm supposed to give a fuck? How does that work? How the fuck does that work? But anyway, back to what I was saying. Trump is carrying out JFK's plan, and there's obvious indicators that he is. For example, the Q boards. JFK is part of the Q Society, secret society. This is why it says JFK secret societies. Excuse me, because these secret societies, the secret societies are who is actually at war. And this is why Trump is fighting that war in secret, keeping it secret from the public. Okay? And excuse me. So Q is the biggest indicator. JFK's gravesite is even shaped like a Q. Q is basically made up of the intelligence officers, naval intelligence officers and generals and admirals that were in opposition to the hostile takeover of the country after the assassination of JFK. But in witnessing how deeply entrenched these enemies of the people were, it was very difficult for them to do anything about it, because if they were to try to turn the military units under their command against the government, there was still larger units that were still loyal to the government because the Constitution requires it, and they would have turned on their own fellow military personnel, and there would have been a civil war within the military, which would have ultimately been lost by the patriots. So they had to fall back because the enemy for now had won. When Donald Trump came around, he was the one chosen by these generals to be the commander-in-chief, because if he held that constitutional position, he could then order the entire military to turn on the establishment. The establishment would lose control of the military, thus losing control of the rest of the world. They would also lose control of the narrative, because now there was somebody in the highest office in the country exposing their asses. And that's exactly what happened. JFK did not take a presidential salary. Neither did Trump. And wouldn't you know, the Center for Performing Arts that's named after JFK, Trump added his name to it. So now it's the Donald Trump and John F. Kennedy Performing Arts Center, or Center for Performing Arts. He's executing Kennedy's plan. And when you know who killed Kennedy? You guessed it, the small hats. And what's funny is these same small hats are the ones that control the media that's turning you against Trump. They're the ones that own the Democrats and the Republicans that are working against Trump. And they're the ones that are trying to pull the strings and get these mobs out in the streets. And if you pay attention to these anti-ICE protests, they're flying the American flag upside down. And this is one big point that I disagree with Brother Sanchez on, because he always shows this image and says this is the American flag. But it's not the American flag. It's the inverted American flag. It's the American flag upside down. It's the American flag that means America has fallen or is in distress. That's what that means. That means America is in a weakened state. This is what the American flag represents: the overthrowing of the pharaoh. So if Brother Sanchez were to simply take that image and flip it upside down, then he would be giving people the real meaning of the American flag. Everything in this picture symbolizes the pharaoh's, basically his system of control. His concubines and his servants. That's what these little people are. And the servants could have been children, child sex slaves, whatever. Servants. And of course, his throne and the scepters that represent his power and all that bullshit. And when you turn it upside down, that's overthrowing the whole system. So the American flag actually stands for overthrowing monarchy. That's why we're supposed to be a constitutional republic. But the monarchy, being small hats, they re-infiltrated the country, turned us into a corporation, and now they have American citizens representing the pharaoh and paying homage to the pharaoh while denouncing their own president in support of foreign nationals overrunning our country. And they're flying that flag because they're showing you that they are enslaved to the pharaoh, and they're so stupid and so ignorant that they don't even know that that's what they're symbolizing. So I hope the next time Brother Sanchez shows this image, he gives you the real explanation, because we all know what the upside down American flag represents. And this is the flag upside down. When Betsy Ross and them were coming up with the design for the American flag, they took this specific image, this exact image right here, and they turned it over, because during the Revolutionary War, the king had control of the colonies, and in order to take control of the colonies and create the constitutional republic, they had to overthrow the king. So they took the symbol of the king's throne turned over and made it the flag. That's what the fuck our flag represents. Doesn't fucking represent Egypt. Those idiot Antifa motherfuckers out there, those white liberals out there flying the flag upside down, are representing ancient Egypt and the pharaoh and the monarchy. Our enemies. But this is Trump's flag. This is the Patriots' flag. This is the American flag. We know who the enemies are. And these people are four of our enemies right here. None have kids, but want to make it okay for our kids to take puberty blockers, hormone pills, and get surgery. This is what the Democrats support. The Democrats support the trans kids bullshit. And that bitch that got shot in Minneapolis, she supported the trans kids bullshit too. This is Ayanna Pressley. She's this bald-headed hag. She's one of those Democrats that gets up there and talks about white supremacy and equal rights for minorities. And she's one of the biggest ones that uses the people of color terminology, because that involves all the foreigners who get first dibs over the Black Americans. So while pretending to be a friend to Black Americans and speak for Black Americans, she's actually speaking for the foreigners who are cutting in line in front of the Black Americans. Your friend pretending, or your enemy pretending to be your friend. Your friends, who you perceive to be your friends, are your enemies. Letitia James, another scumbag. I can only imagine how many people in New York State did time in prison for mortgage fraud, while this bitch herself committed mortgage fraud. And she ran her whole campaign on, I'm going to get Trump. She was the one that brought the case with the 34 felonies and had that paid off judge make up the fake case. She's the one that took that misdemeanor charge and illegally enhanced it to a felony with the help of the idiot judge. So she basically manipulated the justice system, which is exactly why so many Americans don't trust the justice system, because it's so corrupt. And she committed that exact same corruption as if she was doing this on behalf of the American people, when in reality she was causing irreparable harm to the integrity of the institution of the courts. She is a disgrace. The bottom left is Jasmine Crockett, or as I like to call her, Jasmine Crackpot. Big advocate for the illegal aliens without giving a fuck about the American citizens killed by the illegal aliens. She's supposed to be the new representative for black people, your sister girl. But all she does is pushes the Democrat agenda and advocate for foreign nationals. And of course, Kamala Harris, the ever-present border czar during the Biden administration, the one who actually opened up the borders. The one who sat in charge and oversaw the infiltration of all these millions of illegal aliens that came here and got in line in front of the black people, while pretending to be your friend and your sister girl. And I was going to fuck up and say, hey, you notice the trend? They're all black women. And there's Jasmine Crackpot with Kamala Harris. And there she is with none other than Alexander Soros, who is one of the main funders of all these riots. And every American knows that the Soros Foundation, the Open Societies Foundation, does not have Americans' best interest at heart, and especially does not have black Americans' best interest at heart. So why is Miss Sister Girl, new black people's representative, taking pictures and smiling so hard she's showing her back teeth with Alexander Soros? Because that's who she's there to serve, not you. Not you. Or how about this one? Miss Piggy over here. She's supposed to be the sheriff of Philadelphia, or however the fuck she said it in that dumbass video. The woman can't even talk. Supposed to be a law enforcement officer. Sits up there and openly lies to the public. Lies so blatantly that even lying-ass Google couldn't tell that lie for her. You can Google the shit that she's saying and see that it's not true, which I did. But you see, now that the Somalis are going down in Minnesota and excuse me, all over the country, and other illegal alien crime networks are being wrapped up, these crime networks were some of the biggest funders of the Democratic Party. That's why Tim Walz and Jacob Frey, Tim Walz being the governor of Minnesota and Jacob Frey being the mayor of Minneapolis, that's why they were allowing the Somali fraud to go on, because they were getting paid off by the Somalis to not investigate and allow it. And now that all that shit's coming to an end, and most Americans are saying good, because we don't want fraud and we don't want foreigners taking over our country, the Democratic Party is desperately trying to influence Americans to support these illegals so the fraud can continue. And the way they're doing that is by trying to manipulate black Americans to get behind their cause, because they know culturally black Americans tend to be the most influential. So if they can get black Americans to support the Somalis, the rest of America is going to follow suit. So they're using these black women because they know most of the black community come from single black woman, single mother homes. So the black woman is viewed as as a supreme authority figure, or at least an influential authority figure. Because when you grow up in a single mother household, which unfortunately the majority of black households are, you don't know what male leadership looks like. So when you see a black man talking, it's much easier to ignore what he's saying and let his words fall on deaf ears because, well, if your father wasn't around your whole life and he comes around finally when you're 26, you ain't trying to hear shit that motherfucker's trying to say. So recognizing male authority isn't a part of the culture. So they use these black women because the black women have the authority in the community, and they know that they'll be able to get more black Americans to respond and agree with what the black woman is saying because she's the auntie figure or the big mama figure that so many of us, unfortunately, due to the lack of fathers, have become familiar with as the authority. That's the reason why the Democratic Party, or one of the main reasons why the Democratic Party uses black women as their spokespersons to push their nonsense. And of course, out of all the political puppets, they're the cheapest to buy. She got up there and said, police don't wear masks. Yes, the fuck they do. When they're dealing with organized crime, which is what ICE is dealing with, yes, they do. She said the state prosecutor can lock up federal agents. No, they can't. Supremacy clause. They can't. She also said ICE was Trump's made-up army. ICE existed long before Trump. 3 big-ass blatant lies. And that's nothing more than a show of incompetence. But this is what the DEI thing was all about. It wasn't about getting people of color and diversity into positions that were traditionally held by white people. It was about getting left-wing ideologues who fit a certain profile, who fit a certain description into these positions of power so they can use those positions of power and influence to push the narrative that they too believe in onto the people who support them. That's what DEI was about. It was about getting ideologues into position. That's why the main basis of DEI focused more on who you were and less on what your qualifications were. Because what you believe in is also a part of who you are. And the people who don't believe in DUI and DEI are the same people that know the truth and see through the propaganda. And they're the people that believe in merit-based achievement. So DEI wouldn't appeal to them. And they'd be less likely to take a position of power if it was given to them based on DEI rather than based on their qualification. Because real ones don't like to cheat to win. Cheating to win is not considered winning. Word, ambitions of a writer said it. Get those likes up. Hit that thumbs up on Rumble. Come on, y'all. What we doing? What are we doing? But these are the reasons why they pick the puppets that they pick. These people are psychological experts and they know exactly how to manipulate each group. And if you notice on social media, there's a huge trend, even in Congress with Jasmine Crackpot and all the rest of them. There's this narrative of pushing racism, the idea of racism and white supremacy. And each one of these black women that were paid puppets in position of power to try to influence the black community, which in turn would influence the rest of America, each one of these women, well, that one's not black, but she pretends to be. Each one of these women have spoken publicly on several occasions and voiced opinions about racism and white supremacy. But look who she over there working for, white supremacy. All of them. They all take money from white supremacy. They're all serving white supremacy. The same white supremacy they tell you to complain about. Look at this one. She sit there and tell you how racist white people are, and she got all these white men behind her signing her paychecks. So these puppets are effective, is what I'm saying. They have great influence over the black community because of who they are. And because they're able to get so many black people to go along with the agenda, those black people then in turn influence other people around them to go along with the agenda, and the virus spreads. And when I say they're the cheapest to buy off, how much you got to pay off a judge to get her to shut down a bill that would stop poisoning our food? Judge Irene Berger granted an injunction sought by the International Association of Color Manufacturers, IACM, who dislike the provisions of House Bill 2354, which bans certain food products from food in West Virginia. See? Being paid by the big corporation, so she rules in favor of the big corporation, which does not work in favor of the people. The people, the representatives of the people, want to take the poison out of the food, and the judge says, nope, you can't take the poison out of the food. This is what DEI is about. It's not about putting people of color in position, because if that were the case, we would see more black men being promoted. But it's much more difficult to find black male ideologues who are masculine men and can influence other men to support this bullshit. But you know who can influence black men to support this bullshit? The black woman. So that's who they use. So they use DEI to put the black woman in position because she can influence the black man. And the black man influences the rest of the world. That's why rap music is all over the world in countries where they don't even speak English. That's our shit. Crumpets and tea. That's British shit, right? That's white people shit. How many other countries around the world is eating crumpets and tea? Exactly. Exactly. They don't even do that bullshit in the British colonies because they're just not that culturally influential. So they use Big Mama to push it into the black community, and the rest of the black community to push it to the rest of the world. Now you got black Africans that don't even call themselves black running around in Europe crying about racism and white supremacy when nobody oppressed Africans more than Africans. Hell, there's Africans selling other Africans as slaves to this day. To this day. But that's your Democratic Party. They're the party of foreign infiltration. Look at this bullshit. This woman should be expelled from Congress. She says, I am a proud Guatemalan before I'm an American. Democrat Representative Delia Ramirez at the summit in Mexico. We have a sitting American member of Congress publicly declaring herself Guatemalan before American. This is one of those dual citizens that serve in our Congress that are supposed to be representing the American people. This is how far America has fallen. This is how deeply infiltrated America has become, where we have sitting members of Congress that are loyal to foreign countries. If it ain't Israel, it's Somalia. If it ain't Somalia, it's Mexico or Guatemala or some other shithole country somewhere else. Lord Spike says, who buys those slaves? Other rich Africans. The warlords in sub-Saharan Africa would capture people down there, and they would bring them across the Sahara Desert to North Africa, and the North Africans, the guys that look more Middle Eastern, but they're North Africans, they would buy them. And the Muslims in the Middle East would buy them too. I don't think they do in Qatar, Lord Spike, because Qatar, the Emirates, they're more developed nations, so they don't play that shit. But those third world shithole North African countries where warlords run everything, yeah, they play like that. But this is the problem. And this same woman is going to bring her Latina ass, her spicy ass back to America and pretend to represent Americans and try to influence black people by talking about white supremacy and racism and people of color and all that bullshit. While in Mexico, she's publicly declaring herself a foreign infiltrator. And these are the people in Congress that are fighting tooth and nail to go against Trump. These are the ones voting on resolutions to file lawsuits to stop the National Guard deployments and the ICE deportations. It's these people. So we got a bunch of foreigners in our Congress, in our government, opening up the borders to other foreigners to come in and take over. And this is why political power is so important. Because with that political power, you have the ability to either keep your people down like the black Democrats do to black people, or empower your people like the rest of the Democrats did for all these Latin American migrants. Open the border up for them, bring them in, give them all types of welfare money and shit. Meanwhile, the niggas got nothing. Just a bunch more empty promises that they heard 4 years ago. Supreme Court Justice Sam Alito mops the floor with ACLU lawyer. This woman, this goofball is a lawyer who couldn't define what men and women are. How can a court determine whether there is some discrimination on the basis of sex without knowing what sex means? And this is what I mean when I say these liberals, they have contradicting ideologies. Because on one hand, they'll tell you they don't know the difference between a man and a woman, and men can be women and boys can be girls and all this shit. But then at the same time, scream sexual discrimination, misogyny. But how do you know it's hatred against women if you don't even know what a woman is? That's like somebody saying, "Oh, you're racist against the what can I say? You're racist against the coconut people." And I say, "What? I'm racist against who? What are the coconut people?" And then you say, "I don't know what they are." If you don't know what they are, how do you know how I feel about them, dummy? But this is the dumb shit that they pushing because the people who follow their ideology, she's another DEI, by the way. The people who follow their ideology are even dumber. They don't think that deeply into it. They just go by believe the experts and the people on TV and the people in positions of power. Well, they're the experts. So whatever they say, we go along with it because they're our friends. And that's how they're able to sell this dumb shit. Like, look at these people. This is the Ice Out protest in Black Mountain, North Carolina. You won't believe who showed up. Every single person here at this rally is white and elderly. Yeah, a bunch of old, dried up ass white women with nothing better to do. And they all fucked off their money when they were young, so now they have a chance to get paid and have a job as protesters, so they go be paid protesters. But these are the people that are, look at them. They just look stupid. These are the people that don't know any better. These are the people that grew up in the age when everything on television they believed was real, and they still believe it to this day. Lord Spike says DEI, deport every illegal. Word. Look at this. I don't see no Somalis out here. I don't see no Haitians. I don't see no Mexicans. Guatemalans and Venezuelans. I don't see none of them motherfuckers. It's all these dumbass white liberals. This is what's wrong with America. Every one of these people right here need to be in a mental institution. Every single one of them. They're nuts. Look closely at anti-ICE protests. This isn't who you think it is. The more I attend these anti-ICE protests, the clearer the pattern becomes. The crowds are overwhelmingly older, white liberal women, not the communities they claim to represent. Very few young people, very few immigrants or illegal aliens, very few people actually affected by immigration policy. So who is this movement rally for? It's for the white liberals. It's just another opportunity for them to get out there and say Trump bad. Yeah, that's right, Barnes. The black community is choosing the couch. There's a few idiots out there that are joining in on the bullshit, but for the most part, I did say this before, I have to thank the FBA movement. Although in the beginning I was critical of it because I don't like the definition that Tariq Nasheed assigned to it, because it still ties indigenous Americans back to Africa. I will say the fact that black Americans have adopted it, and through adopting that, I guess, nomenclature is the word, they have simultaneously been led to embrace their Americanism. And now, thanks to this, because remember, under Obama, all the black people were like, America sucks, I hate America, America needs to be destroyed, this and that, America's a racist country, this and that. Now you got all these black people on the FBA tip embracing their Americanism. And because they're embracing their Americanism now, they're starting to see this mass migration, open borders bullshit for what it is. A bunch of foreigners being led into their country to infiltrate and cut in line in front of them to reap the benefits of our own labor as Americans. And that is what's causing so many black people to not fall for this illegal alien support, this anti-ICE bullshit. Even the ones that don't like Trump, they'll say, you know what? Fuck ICE. Fuck Trump. I don't like none of the motherfuckers. But what I'm not going to do is go out there and protect these damn foreigners. Because guess what? Fuck them too. Because I'm an American. And you know what? At the end of the day, you don't have to love Trump or support Trump. You have to love America and support America. You are American and you live here. You have a job here. You own property here. You run a business here. You have kids here, which means you have a future legacy that's going to have to exist right here. And the minute black Americans started embracing that idea, all this, we support the illegals, we support open borders shit, went out the fucking window for the majority of them. And I love it. I fucking love it. And you know what? I can't stand Tariq Nasheed. I think he's sweeter than sugar, but I have to give him his props because that stupid little FBA shit that he cooked up, it spiraled into a monumental movement that's going to have lasting effects for generations. Because back when black Americans were thriving in this country, contrary to what the white liberals would have you believe, those black Americans acknowledged their land, acknowledged where they came from, and acknowledged who they were. And the same white liberals that wanted to keep them subjugated didn't like that. So they started to hide who they were, started to change who they were, started to convince them that their land was bad to them by only showing them the bad and concealing the facts about what was good. Even to this day, if you go ask the average young black person on the street, hell, the average black person in general that really don't know shit about history, and you ask them, hey, what was life like for a black man back in the South back in 1935? The first image that will pop into their heads is tattered slave clothes and him running through the woods being chased by white men with bloodhounds and shotguns. Oh, we was getting lynched and all that. Completely ignorant of the fact that land ownership amongst Black Americans was at an all-time high. Marriage, intact families at an all-time high. The racial wealth gap was very quickly starting to close, which means Black wealth, because Black people had their own economy thanks to segregation, the Black wealth was starting to grow more and more. But they won't tell you that part because that's what they don't teach you in the mainstream media. Those are the facts they hide from you to sell you a narrative to make you hate your own country. And if you hate your own country, of course you'll want to open up the borders to all these fucking foreigners. Then the foreigners come in, overrun and displace you, and now you're mad. But ain't shit you can do about it because it's too late. You fell for the narrative and you fucked yourself. But thanks to the lip smacking Mac Tariq Nasheed, he actually threw something out there that brought Americans back to being American. And I love it. And all we're seeing now is these dumbed down white liberals that hate themselves. Because remember, these are the same people with the white guilt. These are the same people you see on video in the streets bowing down and kissing the Hebrew Israelites' boots and shit. These dumbasses. So if they hate themselves that much, it's very easy to get them to hate their country. So it should come as no surprise that they're out there in support of foreign nationals taking Black people's place. Because ain't none of these motherfuckers Black. And what kills me is if these white liberals over the years had been going this hard as they're going for the illegals, if they were going this hard for Black people to get their reparations, Black people would have got something by now. But where were they during the reparations fight? They were silent because they don't give a fuck about you, Black people. They don't. Your friends are your enemies and your enemies are your friends. The Florida Department of Health randomly bought 25 baby formulas from stores. Almost 70% of the baby formulas they bought tested positive for heavy metals like arsenic, lead, and mercury above legal limits. And guys, please don't forget to support the show. We got 2 supporters on the board so far. Let me check the other Cash App because I do have 2 Cash Apps. And sometimes people will hit the Citizen Man Cash App instead of the Jaden Ben Cash App, but the Jaden Ben Cash App is the one I'm signed into. All right. I don't think we got anything. I don't think I missed anybody. Yeah, I did shout out Stephanie on the last show. Okay. So we got 2 supporters on the board. Cool. The Florida Department of Health has collected 24 infant formulas from 7 different brands purchased from multiple locations, both online and in stores. Those samples were tested for arsenic, cadmium, lead, and mercury. What we found in those 24 samples was troubling. Of the 24 infant formulas tested, 16 of those formulas contained at least 1, if not more, heavy metals that exceeded federal standards. So these companies that manufacture and market their food products to us, they're poisoning the baby food. This is why so many kids are fucked up, because they're getting these heavy metals in the vaccines and they're getting a double dose in the formulas. And this is coming from companies that run commercials and show you moms hugging their babies and pretend like they're all about family and childbirth and health, and they're fucking putting poison in your baby food. And the Florida Department of Health, the government, who you think is your enemy, and in a lot of cases they are your enemy, are actually acting as friends of the people by making this known. This is why they say breastfeed your kids. Breastfeed your babies. Go through that pain. That's your baby. You don't want them drinking poison when you got the good shit right there. You know? So they fight and they advocate for these illegal aliens because these illegal aliens, they believe, are their friends. But look at all the Americans these illegals have killed, all the American lives lost. And this is why I say it blows my mind to see so many black people still trying to side with the illegal aliens and go against ICE. And here's a black woman that was killed by an illegal alien. That's the Black Queen. Y'all motherfuckers gonna still advocate for these Pedros for real? You kidding me? 3 months ago, a young woman named Dakara Thompson was murdered by an illegal alien from Guatemala. Today, liberals are celebrating a woman who gave her life trying to stop ICE from deporting illegals like the one who killed Dakara. Exactly. And if the Democrats hadn't opened the border in the first place, Dakara wouldn't have been killed by an illegal alien. Which means she probably would have still been alive. Where were the white liberals for Dakara? Why aren't the white liberals taking this into consideration? Because again, they don't care about you. They don't even care about their own supporters. This is the woman that got killed in Minneapolis by the ICE agent. This woman lost her life because she was fully consumed by years of media indoctrination. Yeah, that Trump bad narrative. Serious case, severe case of TDS. And guys, hit that like button too, man. We got 67 watching, 53 likes. Hit that damn like button. If you can't hit the donate button, at least you can hit the like button. But I would prefer for you to hit both. So hit that like button. Media indoctrination that convinced her she was living in 1930s Germany and that interfering with ICE was the normal equivalent of fighting Hitler's Nazis. And that's the scary part with these liberals. They have thoroughly been convinced over the last 10 years that committing crimes is justified. That's why so many of them were out there with Antifa beating up Trump supporters and shit, because they literally thought they were saving America from these evil racists. When in fact, they're just being suckered and lured into doing stupid shit and getting themselves locked up. This one got herself killed. All because of the false narratives. Dangerous misinformation. Her death is tragic on many levels, starting with the fact that it was completely avoidable. But most devastating of all is that she sacrificed her life for a belief system that isn't rooted in reality. Yeah, she died for nothing. She died for a bunch of people that didn't have shit to say when she died. Because I don't see no Somalis taken to the streets. I don't see no Somalis on social media doing interviews like they were doing, trying to defend the Equality Leering Center and the rest of them. They were all over the media with that shit. This bitch gets killed. Where the fuck are they? They don't care. They know these liberals are stupid. I mean, they were stupid enough to let him in. They were stupid enough to give him access to tax money. Of course, they'll be stupid enough to die in defense of them. Of course they would. She is yet another casualty of the American media machine, a system that feeds fear, rewrites history, and radicalizes ordinary people until they're willing to destroy themselves for a lie. And that's exactly what it is. Now, think about all the liberal activists that were funding and organizing the George Floyd riots that got snatched up by the military. Fucking threw their lives away. Over what? Some bullshit that ain't have nothing to do with them. But it gets worse with these people. The woman who tried to run over an ICE agent in Minneapolis and got shot was an ICE Watch warrior, and actively trained to go after ICE agents. She was a professional agitator, just like JD Vance said. Yes, she was a professional agitator. Let me go to the big gallery. I got to go to the big gallery for this because I got to zoom in on this shit. I got to zoom in on this goofball shit. Yeah, we going in tonight. It gets worse with these people. You watch and see. Wait till I get, there he goes. Wait till I get to this slide right here. Eric Doherty says, holy smokes, it's confirmed that anti-ICE vehicle rammer Renee Good's organization, Minnesota ICE Watch, explicitly trains their members to assault ICE and federal border agents on top of harassing and gathering and targeting their vehicles. Micro intifada, break their grip. This must be shut down. So here's one, and it's funny. Look at this. 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 Matter of fact, look at both of these images. Just take that in for a second. This is why I needed that zoom. You peep what's happening there? Do you see the racism? Put a 1 in the chat if you see the racism. Okay, well, maybe it'll take too long, so I'm not going to waste your time. Let me just hop right to it. Image on the left, or both images, the guys with the helmets and the shields, those are the ICE agents with their vest on. The good white people fighting the guys with the vest and the shields, those are your white liberals, your anti-ICE protesters. And look at this. The illegals are painted black. First of all, none of the illegals are black, and not all the ICE agents are white. But they're selling it to you as if it's white supremacy and they're the good white people fighting for the poor black immigrant. But look at this. That is assault. If you jump on a police officer's back while they're effecting an arrest, you are committing an assault. So this group is actually encouraging violence against law enforcement in the name of a political agenda. That is terrorism. Doesn't have to be shooting shit up or bombing shit. Just violence. All these people need to go to jail. Every single one of them. They need to lock their racist asses up. So here's some of the notes. Tactic 1, using a secure grip like the Gable grip that's illustrated above, hug the arrestee and pull them out of danger. And that's them hugging the arrestee is black, of course, because it's always black people being arrested. And pull them away from the ICE agents. You know what should happen in that situation? FBI or HSI should come out, tackle these motherfuckers, and lock their asses up right with them. Tactic 2, pulling and pushing an officer off of an arrestee and or breaking their grip on an arrestee. Often combined with tactic 1, this tactic is probably the most risky as it requires physical contact with an officer, which could lead to assault on an officer charges and escalate the LEO response, the law enforcement officer response, if the police aren't whatever. So at least they're warning them that, hey, you could get in trouble for this, but yet they're still instructing people to do it. Is that not a crime to make a public call to action, which an action which would constitute a violation of law? Is that not a crime in itself? So if you're mad about that bitch getting Swiss cheesed in Minnesota, then you got your priorities all backwards. Because she was one of these people fighting to keep the illegals here so they could keep standing to keep their boots on your black ass neck and keep collecting all the welfare money while your black ass don't get no reparations. These liberals are literally fighting for the group of people who are going to be the next ruling class over the black folks. Because those migrants, they wasn't going to waste that money that the government was giving them. They was going to invest it in own property and be your landlord and shit. Start businesses and hire their own people and ice you out of a whole industry. That's what was happening in the trucking industry. And that's what these liberals were fighting for. That's what they're fighting for. Ain't that something? But it gets worse. Oh, it gets worse. Hit the Cash App, hit the PayPal, hit the Venmo, and support the show because it just keeps getting better. Liberals, excuse me, liberals are now showing up with their babies in Minneapolis, hoping any police or federal agents won't crowd control them when things get unruly and dangerous. Now these people are using their children as human shields. Remember, this is the same group that believes in sexually mutilating children with their trans kids garbage, murdering unborn children with their abortion garbage. So it wouldn't take much thought for them to go out there into the streets, create chaos with law enforcement, force law enforcement to respond with violence, and use their own child as a human shield. Whoever the father of this child is, because I'm pretty sure he ain't with this crazy bitch, he needs to take this image and go find that footage and take that footage and go to court and get custody of his kid, because this woman is endangering the life and safety of her child. That's what she's doing. And she's using the child as a human shield to allow the rioters to continue to riot. So not only is she putting her child in danger, she's putting her child in danger in an effort to facilitate other people's crimes. Starting with the crime of the illegal aliens being here against the law, and ending with the crimes of these idiot American citizens assaulting federal officers. This is child endangerment at textbook. This is textbook child endangerment. That's like if you a dope dealer and you run in a crack house, you bring your kid over to the crack house and tell yourself, well, the police ain't gonna kick in the door and throw tear gas in here and flashbangs in here because there's kids in here. Oh, yes, the fuck they will. And they will fuck your kid up and then charge you for it. Oh, yes, they will. These are some sick individuals. And I hope the father of this child goes and gets custody, because that is unbecoming of that is an unfit parent right there. Your political aspirations to keep these illegal aliens in America means more to you than the health and safety of your own child. Like look at her face. Like, she looks crazy. She looks cracked out. In Minneapolis, left-wing protesters are now dragging their babies into freezing, high-risk crowds during anti-ICE clashes that already turned deadly. Parents strap infants to their chests right in the front lines, banking on police restraint. This isn't activism. It's reckless endangerment. Kids belong at home, safe, not used as human shields in potential riots. Common sense should prevail. Yeah, but they're going to use the kids as human shields because they don't care about those kids. They don't give a fuck about those kids. They're the same ones advocating for aborting kids. No, it's not child abuse, Barnes. It's child endangerment. Abuse would be if the parent was the one actually committing the violence against the child, harming the child directly. But putting your child in harm's way, where there's a very high possibility that your child can be harmed by someone else or something else, that is child endangerment. It's like you get in the car with your kid and you don't put them. It's all good, Barnes, and you don't put them in a car seat. You can be charged with child endangerment for that, but they can't charge you with child abuse because you'll beat that case because you didn't physically abuse the child. You just put the child in danger of being hurt. Now, what is child abuse is the trans kids bullshit. That's child abuse because that's the parent directly harming the child. And that's why I say these kids that are born to these crazy, cracked out liberal women, those kids are fucking doomed. They're going to be the next generation of stupids. And we're seeing it now. And whoever the fathers of those kids are, if your baby mama is out there with your kid, endangering your child, get that video and take that shit to court. Get that video and take that shit to court. Excuse me. And show the court that this woman's political aspirations, this woman's personal political aspirations, mean more to her than the safety of her child. Excuse me. Because if these are the same people that run around claiming that law enforcement is reckless and Trump's army is an army of killers and they're Proud Boys and all this bullshit and they're so evil and dangerous, then let's go with that. Let's go with that. Why the fuck are you bringing your kid out and standing on the front line in front of a bunch of armed, evil, dangerous Trump guys? Why are you doing that? Because you don't care about your kid. Critical. ICE has blocked off an entire street and are going door to door, St. Paul, Minnesota. And St. Paul and Minneapolis are like, I believe they call them the Twin Cities. And ICE isn't just going door to door because they feel like it. They're going door to door because these illegal aliens have the protection and the support of the Democrat politicians that run the school boards, run the cities, and run the state. And what these Democrat politicians have done at the school board is they've decided to close down the public schools because the public schools is where all the illegal alien kids are. And that's how ICE is catching a lot of these illegals, because they would go to the schools and they would detain the illegal alien children. Then now the children have to call their parents. They call their parents. The parents show up and then they get detained. So in order to protect the illegals and prevent ICE from detaining and deporting these illegal aliens, they shut down the schools, hoping these illegals could hide in the houses that the government paid for them. So now ICE is going to their houses. And I think the way to combat this is for ICE to get warrants from these federal judges, because if it's ICE's job to remove illegal aliens from the country and they have names of illegal aliens at certain addresses, that should be enough to get a warrant. Then they can go kick the door and snatch everybody. Get them the fuck out of here. Get them all out of here. But back to what I was saying in the beginning, right? The fake news media is not going to tell you certain facts that would change the entire outlook of the situation. They're only going to tell you ICE is going door to door, because that gives people the impression that you can be safe in your home 1 minute And next thing you know, federal officers are gathering outside your front door ready to kick that shit in no matter who you are. But if they were told that the public schools have decided to close in order to protect the illegal aliens, then the understanding of why ICE is going door to door would make sense. They wouldn't do this if the Democrats didn't shut down the school or the schools. They wouldn't have to do this. But now they have to because the Democrats shut down the schools. And with that little bit of knowledge, that completely changes the game because that removes the idea or the possibility that ICE is just so evil and vindictive that they're just going around terrorizing people in their homes. No, they're going after the same illegals that they could have gotten without having to go to their homes. But now they have to go to their homes because the Democrats decided that they were going to take this measure in an effort to protect them. Excuse me. And believe you me, these ICE protesters and the protests and the riots, in the media, it looks like they're picking up steam. It looks like they're getting more people behind them. It looks like they're actually making leeway and obstructing ICE. Make no mistake about it. All of these people are getting arrested. They're all getting arrested. Local police, state police, they're going around picking these people up and warrants are being signed and more people are getting picked up. There was a video of this white lady talking to, she was just on the street doing a random, person on the street interview, talking about, she doesn't like ICE and she wants the illegals in America. And right after the interview was over, you see two cops walk up to her, put her in handcuffs. And guess what they arrested her for? Obstructing federal officers or obstruction of justice or obstructing police. So make no mistake, these people are being ID'd, they're being tagged, and they're being arrested. So they can keep on obstructing ICE all they want. Eventually, there'll be none of them left because they'll all be in jail where they belong. Now, this is diabolical right here. This is a Craigslist ad, and the caption says, "The circus closed, but the clowns still need work, don't they? Look for yourself on Craigslist." And this is in Philadelphia. And it says, right where that sheriff was at, talking all that dumb shit, Philadelphia. It says, "Stop Trump, up to $1,500 a week. Hiring immediately." Man, I'm about to go work for them motherfuckers. Call today, start tomorrow. $15 to $18 hourly rate plus bonus plus overtime up to 77 hours per week. Drivers earn gas reimbursement, morning and evening shifts. No previous experience required, full-time and part-time positions, weekend positions available. No fundraising, no commission. And then there's the phone number. So if you guys want to go join them, just take a screenshot of that and call. I'm going to call. You know what? Should I call them right now? Y'all want me to call them right now? Y'all want me to call them right now? Yo, I want to call these people. Let me get myself on camera. We about to call these motherfuckers right now. I want to see who answers the phone. Barr says call them. Call them. Oh shit, y'all. y'all are nuts. Y'all motherfuckers are worse than me. Free Thinker says call them. Oh shit. Y'all gonna get me in trouble tonight, man. Now these motherfuckers gonna have my phone number. I'm about to do it. Okay, let's see. 267 606 5147. Barnes says I'm writing it down. Now, what should I ask them? If they're still hiring, and how do I get that 1,500? You know what? Fuck it. I'm Citizen Man. I know what to say. All right. I want to make sure y'all can hear it though. Everybody says, "Call." I'm about to call these niggas. Y'all are crazy. I can't believe we're about to do this. All right, let's go. It's mad late too.
Welcome to Verizon Wireless. The number you dialed has been changed, disconnected, or is no longer in service. If you feel you have reached this recording in error, please check the number and try your call again. Announcement 2. Welcome.
267. So that must have been a burner number. 267-606-5147. Damn. Damn it. Some bullshit.
In error, please check the number and try your call again.
Damn it, man. That would have been some great content right there, man. But you know what? I'm glad I called because at least now I don't have to worry. Like, I don't have to be like sitting around thinking, yeah, Free Thinker said Ice already got him. Yeah, I believe it. I fucking believe it. Oh, man. I wish I would have found this shit like 2 weeks ago. Oh, my God. Bar says, I called the Somali Leering Center. Yeah, you called. What did they say? Did you get to talk to anybody? Anybody pick up the phone? You know what? I'm going to start doing that. Like one night a week, I'm going to spend a whole week just collecting all these shady ass phone numbers from these Democrat organizations. And then one night we're going to go live and I'm going to just start calling them up and trolling them. Free Thinker says, I'm going to keep checking for these kinds of ads. Kimba says, no commission is lame. They liberals. Of course it's lame. Said the mailbox was full and couldn't have further messages. That means nobody was answering the phone. Ice probably got their ass too. And listen, any other, you know what? Free Thinker and anybody else that wants to search Craigslist and find these ads, you have to search gigs under gigs and search in these big liberal cities where you see these protests happening. And any ads that you find, screenshot them, send them to me with the phone number, and we're going to do instead of a call-in show, we're going to do a call-out show. We're going to call all these motherfuckers. Oh, man. Oh, I wish I would have found that number 2 weeks ago. My goodness. Damn it, man. Yeah, let's do it. That's our mission. We're going to troll. We're going to troll these motherfuckers. That's what we're going to do. Broadcast it live, too. And then I'm going to make shorts and short videos about it. So these protests are being organized, and it ain't just George Soros and them. Here are the traitors financing the invasion of America. And it says, meet the U.S.-born Marxist tech millionaire behind the anti-ICE protests. You won't believe who he's married to and where they now live. Well, it didn't say. So, whatever. But it says, if you're showing up at these protests saying you're part of some grassroots organization, no, you're not. Joel Finkelstein, a Princeton University researcher, told the Daily Mail. And this guy, his name is Neville Singham, Nevillesingham, Neville Singham. So now we have names being named. And guess what? Guess what's about to happen to Neville Singham? We're not going to see shit happen to Neville Singham, but what we are going to see is Neville Singham disappear from the public space. And everybody that works under him, because he probably cuts one big check to one person, then that person divvies up the money to all the other underbosses and organizers underneath him, and then the money gets spread around like that. So all those people within the network have to be removed. And Trump is actually taking a pretty hardline stance on this one. Oh, shit. What the hell did I do? What the hell? What the helly? What the hell? What the helly? All right, now we're starting to Borg out again. Okay, well. Let me see. Go full. Okay, there we go. It says, POTUS, starting February 1st, We're not making any payments to sanctuary cities or states having sanctuary cities because they do everything possible to protect criminals at the expense of American citizens, and it breeds fraud and crime. So, another great thing Trump's doing for America. I think that's the right thing to do. Even if you're a Trump hater, but you at least embrace America and don't want these foreigners here running over shit. Well, guess what? Trump defunding these sanctuary cities is going to defund these illegals. And I believe it should have been done a long time ago. And there's been times when he froze funding. You know, there's been times where he's froze funding, he's paused funding, he's cut funding or cut it back, but now he's stopping it all together. So not only are they going to be out of gas because they won't have their private funders and their organizers, but now they're going to be completely dead in the water because they're not even going to have the government funding. And you best bet your bottom dollar, these Somalis that have been scamming billions of dollars from the system, they're not going to pay a dime for your American ass to go out there and protest. They're not. They're going to take their money and run. Or should I say your money and run? Now, the Trump-Israel thing, we gonna get to that. We're going to get to that. But give me a second. I've been drinking too much Red Bull, and now I got to use the bathroom, and I have to disappear for a minute. So I'm going to leave this annoying ass image up on the screen and take perhaps a minute or two. Give me a second. All right, I'm back, y'all. I'm back. Did I leave this up long enough for this shit to annoy you yet? Well, remember, it's just optics, but the truth is inverted. My daughter happens to be Jewish. Beautiful. 3 grandchildren are Jewish. I'm very proud of them. I'm very proud of that whole family. I am the least anti-Semitic person probably there is anywhere in the world, President Trump. Y'all don't see how thick he's laying that on? Like, look at how thick he's laying it on. Like, he's laying it on thick right there. Because it's performative. And the reason why he's saying all this and he's being so performative is because when Iran starts bombing Israel and he doesn't step in to help Israel, it won't be viewed by the Israelophiles as Trump double crossing Israel. It'll be viewed as Trump is in a position where he's simply unable to help Israel. And the reason for that is because if it's made known publicly that Trump is double crossing Israel, Israel will bomb Americans. And I'll tell you, Trump fell out with Netanyahu from the time he started telling Netanyahu to stop that shit in Gaza. In case you were wondering, Trump wasn't one of those people out there talking about Israel got a right to defend itself. Trump was saying, Israel, stop, cut that shit out. Wrap that shit up. That's what he was saying the entire time. Then Israel started posturing towards attacking Iran. And Israel said, we'll attack Iran, but we need your help, Trump. And Trump says, no, I'm not going to help you attack Iran. And a few weeks after that, a port, one of the major ports in Iran, had a big explosion, killed I think it was 500 casualties, killed hundreds, injured hundreds more. That was the Israeli Mossad bombing that shit. And that was back in like May, June of last year. And that was right before Iran rained down those missiles on Tel Aviv in response to what Israel did by bombing that port. And they bombed it covertly with their operatives inside Iran. And those same operatives inside Iran are the ones behind the riots and the protests that are happening right now. And the reason why they're tearing up Iran from the inside is because they know that Iran is planning a massive attack on Israel, and Israel is not in a position to defend themselves because they wasted all their ammo killing civilians in Gaza. They wasted their Iron Dome missiles defending themselves from the neighboring countries that wanted to stop them from killing civilians in Gaza, and Trump didn't re them up, and now they're in a weakened state. They weakened themselves. So now they can't fight Iran head to head, so they got to fight dirty. So let's send in the jackals and turn shit up and turn the country upside down. So they can't fight. But Ayatollah Khomeini got that shit on lock. You fucking with the Iranians. Ayatollah Khomeini is not Muammar Gaddafi or Bashir al-Assad. Ayatollah Khomeini is a fucking savage. And what's happening right now is those Israeli Mossad agents that are turning up in Iran and misleading the people of Iran. Those Mossad agents are being picked up and they're being executed. And it's being passed off in the media as if the Ayatollah is killing his own people, when in fact, what he's dealing with is an insurgency within his country to get him out of power so Israel doesn't get demolished. And remember, Trump said, oh, we're coming to help you, protesters of Iran. How long ago did Trump say that? How much help did he give those protesters? I'm going to show you just how bad the world's being played. So this slide, the UAE will cut funds for citizens who study in the UK out of fear of being radicalized by the Muslim Brotherhood Islamists. Arab states now view European states as a dangerous Islamist radicalization hotspot. So the Muslims in Saudi Arabia don't like the Muslim Brotherhood. You know why? Because the Muslim Brotherhood is not ran by Muslims. The Muslim Brotherhood is ran by Israeli Mossad agents. And that Islamist radicalization shit is an Israeli Mossad program to create terrorist groups who claim to be Muslims, so other Muslims around the world, especially in those countries surrounding Israel, can be demonized and painted as evil barbarians when it's the Israelis that are the evil barbarians. So what the UAE is doing is they're protecting their citizens from falling into that brainwashing. But back to Iran. Iran successfully crippled Starlink and jammed GPS signals after widespread protests. Iran has killed and beaten a lot of protesters who are fighting for a free and secular Iran. God bless. Well, here's the thing. If these people were fighting for a free and secular Iran, they had all these years to do it, yet they didn't. Why all of a sudden, now that Iran is posturing to destroy Israel, that they're deciding they want freedom all of a sudden? You see the play? But here's where it gets better, though. Elon Musk is Trump's guy, right? So Elon Musk he sets up Starlink in Iran when the Ayatollah Khomeini shut down the internet. So these infiltrators can't organize. He cut their communications. So Trump pretends to help by allowing Elon to set up Starlink. But then Elon shuts down Starlink because Starlink cannot be jammed. That was one of the biggest selling points of Starlink, wasn't it? The fact that jammers don't work on that system and the fact that no traditional technology can outperform that system because it's the best of the best. It's the top of the line. And it's satellite based. So it's extremely daunting to even access its control system enough to shut it down. So if Starlink got put up in Iran and then shut down, Elon Musk shut it down. Or at least allowed it to be shut down. Again, Trump posturing as if he's in favor of the anti-Iran crowds, but still allowing Ayatollah Khomeini to maintain the upper hand. And these riots are actually good for the Ayatollah Khomeini because now he's able to see very clearly just how deeply infiltrated his country was. And he has the ability now to root out those infiltrators and those agitators and bring them to justice. You notice how it says Iran has killed and beaten. In that part of the world, that's what happens to spies, traitors, and double crossers. Criminals, people who betray the community by committing crimes against members of the community. Depending on the severity of the crime, they either get killed or beaten. And here's the thing. Ayatollah Khomeini ain't out there with an AK-47 and a bullwhip shooting and beating people. He has loyalists. So if Ayatollah Khomeini is such an evil person and such a wicked leader, why aren't even his loyalists turning against him? And he has enough loyalists to where they have the ability to kill and beat protesters. That's because these protests are not as big as the media is making it out to be. There's small pockets of rioters being led by Israeli Mossad agents posing as quote unquote freedom fighters. They're trying to destabilize Iran so Iran won't have the capability to attack Israel. Because they don't have the Iron Dome system to defend Israel. They're not going to have Trump and the American military to defend Israel. All they can depend on is the jackals in Iran turning up enough to where Iran can only focus on fixing itself and can't fix Israel, if you know what I mean. So, the CNN report, Iran would respond to a U.S. attack by launching 500 missiles at Israel. The missile has a 2,000-kilometer range, a 1.5-ton warhead, and can be equipped with multiple warheads. 500 of them? That means that's enough firepower to literally level Israel. So the Mossad got to turn up in Iran to stop them. And Trump won't help Israel because now Mexico has deployed nearly 300 members of the Mexican army from the Capuchin Battalion to the U.S. southern border to protect their nation from potential U.S. from potential U.S. operations. So Trump's posturing to go to war with Mexico. But here's the thing: Mexico's going about it all wrong because Trump got those sonic weapons that they used in Venezuela. You think they're not going to use them in Mexico and be able to walk right in? But I think Trump is going to drag things out with Mexico, and he's gonna allow the guys on the ground to have some fun. And while that's going on, that'll be his excuse to not help Israel. So this war with Mexico, or this talk of war with Mexico, is actually pretty significant. A lot more significant than you think. Now, while all that's happening, of course, Iran has the backing of Russia. And Iran is supposed to be our enemy. Russia is supposed to be our enemy. But I keep telling you guys that Putin and Trump have an alliance. It's a secret alliance, but it's an alliance. That's why they don't talk on camera together too much. But they meet quite frequently. In fact, there was a video of Vladimir Putin sitting on stage in the middle of an interview. Trump calls his phone, and he immediately ended the interview, and he said, it will be awkward to leave him waiting. That means Putin has great respect for Donald Trump because they are allies. And if the symbolism and if the behaviors between the two of them and the military strategy between the two of them don't convince you of it, maybe this symbolism will. This is a United States military Black Hawk helicopter that was participating in the raids that were going on during the pandemic when the celebrities were getting snatched up. And what you see circled on that helicopter, if you look closely, is actually the Punisher logo, the Punisher skull. And the Punisher skull represents justice, right? Rescuing the kidnapped kids and arresting all the pedophiles and shit. This is a Russian Spetsnaz in Ukraine right after Russia invaded Ukraine. And they took large parts of Crimea. You notice the patch on this Russian soldier's uniform? I don't know if you can see it. What do you see there? The Punisher skull. So wait a minute. On the surface, it looks like Trump and Putin are enemies. Everybody keeps saying this, but everybody's wrong. Yes, everybody can be wrong. Citizen Man is right. And there's proof right in front of your eyes. They're wearing the exact same symbol on the exact same mission, fighting against the exact same enemy on two different fronts. That's what that is. Peace out, ambitions. Yeah, you get some sleep, man. You get some sleep. Don't be late to work. Don't be like me staying up all night. Nowadays, I get to sleep in as long as the baby does, so don't try to be like me. You'll run yourself ragged. So, yeah, they are allies. This symbolism symbolizes the alliance. But, of course, the posturing has to be, we're enemies. We're opposed to one another. But you notice Putin sat out the Venezuela situation and let Trump have it. So guess what Trump's going to do? He's going to sit out the Israel situation and let Putin and his allies have it. And not only that, Trump is going to help him because Trump just sold a bunch of F-35s to Turkey, and Turkey's ready to bomb Israel too. Trump has an alliance with the Egyptian military. He just sent some Marines over there back in January. And Egypt is opposed to Israel. So Trump is going to allow Israel to get destroyed. And this will be the end of Israel, in my opinion. The end is near for Israel. And the way those Zionists are behaving in Iran, in Iran, and around in other parts of the world, it's starting to show. It's starting to show. They're trying to get aggressive and, do things to try to weaken these nations from within. They're depending very heavily on their infiltration tactics. Now, back to what I was saying about the inverted truth. What Trump does appears to be one way, when in reality, it turns out to work out in your favor. Everybody that's mad at Trump's Operation Warp Speed, and I really need you guys to screen record this or at least pay very close attention. This is exactly what I was explaining to you guys about Operation Warp Speed, and this chart actually proves it without a shadow of a doubt. As a matter of fact, so much so, let me pull it up in the big gallery so I can zoom in on it. Yeah, let's do that. Because this is worth illustrating, even though I've done it before and illustrated it before. And guys, please don't forget to support the show. It's Wednesday night. We need that support. We only got 2 supporters. I would like to get 3 more, but let's see how that goes. So Operation Warp Speed, Trump said, I'll give you pharmaceutical companies, I'll give you these billions of dollars so you can cook up the vaccine and produce it and get it ready in 12 months. The pharmaceutical companies, being greedy and thinking Trump's on their side, they said, yeah, we'll take the money. Because Trump knew they already had the vaccine cooked up. They had it cooked up years ago because they were planning the pandemic when Hillary Clinton took office in 2016 or won the election in 2016, but she lost. So Trump gives all this money to the pharmaceutical companies, which everybody's mad at him about, but they don't understand that when the president gives money and grants to any organization, he gets to make the terms and say what that money should go to. So he told them they got 12 months to put out the vaccine or they got to give all the money back. So they put out the vaccine in 12 months, not understanding that Trump was playing them, getting them to play themselves. So they put out the vaccine in 12 months, and then it was put under emergency use authorization, which categorizes it as an experimental medicine. But their original plan was to drag out the pandemic all the way to 2023. And the reason for that is because under federal law, in order for a vaccine to be properly tested and not considered experimental, it has to undergo at least 3 years of testing and at most 10 years of testing. So they were going to ride it to the minimum, the 3 years. And here you have a chart of all the different COVID variants that they were planning on reporting on in the news to keep everybody scared and locked down from 2021 all the way to 2023. But remember, the pandemic started back in 2020. So that would have been 3.5 years that they would have had the time to quote unquote test the vaccine. So if they would have allowed the pandemic to go on that long, when they did put out the vaccine, they could claim it was properly tested, and thus they would be able to pass legislation to mandate it. But because of Operation Warp Speed, they took the money, they kicked it out in 12 months. By 2021, pandemic was over, everything was opened back up. All the variant stories, they try to spin them in the news, but because everything was opened back up and people were functioning relatively normally and started to notice that nobody was getting sick and dying, they stopped playing the COVID game. And then when the employers try to mandate the vaccines, they got sued, a lot of them, and even more of them got the vaccine mandate shut down. Because under federal law, you cannot mandate experimental medicine. And under Operation Warp Speed, the vaccine was put out as a permanently experimental medicine. It could never be classified as fully tested because it was brought to market 2 years before the minimum window for testing. Operation Warp Speed saved your ass. Now, if you still don't understand how Operation Warp Speed saved your ass, think about it this way. What if Operation Warp Speed didn't happen? Well, the liberals would have been less willing to shut down the whole scamdemic bullshit because their whole agenda was play pandemic ball until the vaccine, which is the magic cure, comes out, get as many people to take it, and then we could end everything. We could end the lockdowns and the whole pandemic bullshit. But because Trump put it out in 2021, they then had to take that stance. Well, we don't have to lock down the country anymore, Democrats. We don't have to play COVID ball anymore, Democrats, because we have our magic cure now. So open up the schools, open up the businesses, cut the bullshit. And that's exactly what happened. So they were not able to drag out the pandemic for 3 years, which would have allowed them to withhold the vaccine for 3 years and allow them to claim that it was properly tested. But without Operation Warp Speed, they would have dragged it out for all 3 years. They would have put out the vaccine. They would have got a legislative mandate. And then you would have seen the guys with the guns and the white lab coats showing up to your house saying vaccine or lead. Excuse me. But Operation Warp Speed put a permanent stop to that. So all you people that are mad at Trump about Operation Warp Speed, if you understand what Warp Speed did, and you consider and you weigh that against the possible outcome of not having Operation Warp Speed, you will then see how genius and how brilliant of a move that was by Trump. And now you'll understand why everybody's not being forced vaccinated for COVID anymore. They couldn't keep up the charade. Which, might I add, absolutely fucking brilliant. But you see, most people don't think on a genius level, on a multi-layered level like that. So they can't see the play. They're just looking at the surface. Oh, Trump bad. Trump said take vaccine. Trump bad. Trump gave vaccine company money. Trump bad. That's all they see. That's all they know. Because their knowledge base is limited. Their ability to think and reason is limited. Not because they're stupid people or they lack the ability. I say it's limited because the amount of information, the amount of variables within the thought is not the true number of variables that actually exist within the reality of the situation. You see what I'm saying? So they only know what they've been shown, but what they don't know is what the law says. And if they knew what the law said, then they would understand why Operation Warp Speed was, 1, necessary, and 2, worked in our favor for the long term. So Trump kind of fell on his sword in that one, where he took all the criticism and he took all the shit talking, but he went ahead with the plan because in understanding the law and knowing the enemy's agenda, that was the only way to truly undermine their agenda in such a way that they never get to push that vaccine and mandate that vaccine ever. And for those of you who are thinking, well, he's the president, he could have stopped them from putting it out. No, he can't, because that would be the president using dictatorial authority under color of law to basically regulate a private company. The president can't do that. Any private regulations has to be done legislatively. So Trump did not legally have the power to stop them from putting out the vaccine, but what he did have was the power to manipulate them into putting the vaccine out 2 years earlier than what they had intended. So that was the route he took. So he was able to thwart their agenda without violating the law, without overstepping his presidential powers, and do it cleanly and permanently. And again, the people who are mad at Trump and they're saying things like, well, he could have stopped it. They obviously don't understand what enumerated powers mean. They obviously don't understand the limits placed on government when it comes to private individuals and private businesses. And they don't understand that pharmaceutical companies can put out whatever medical product they want as long as they get FDA approval. And they have more than enough money to buy off the FDA, which they did a long time ago. So they would get that approval. You see how that works? But again, like I said, when you're missing vital facts and vital information, you're going to misread and misinterpret the situation. So Trump put out this post on Truth Social, and it said Cuba lived for many years on large amounts of oil and money from Venezuela. In return, Cuba provided security services for the last two Venezuelan dictators, but not anymore. Most of those Cubans are dead from last week's USA attack, and Venezuela doesn't need protection anymore from the thugs and extortionists who held them hostage for so many years. Venezuela now has the United States of America, the most powerful military in the world by far, to protect them, and protect them we will. There will be no more oil or money going to Cuba. Zero. I strongly suggest they make a deal before it's too late. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So Trump declares end of Venezuelan aid to Cuba, confirms security forces dead in U.S. strikes. So apparently they were Cuban military in Venezuela. And the Americans killed them. Now, Venezuela is free. It's no longer under deep state control. All the other nations that were being controlled by that same network now have the opportunity to break free. And Argentina, where with President Milei, he is a huge Trump supporter, and he's been doing in Argentina the same thing Trump's been doing over here. Weeding out the deep state players, returning power to the people, cleaning up the elections, and rebuilding a strong economy in Argentina. And they also support the BRICS nations and have the ability to aid the BRICS nations and also aid in the reconstitution of a legitimate Venezuelan government. But for some reason, Israeli tourists caught causing huge fires in Argentina in a forest full of natural resources. An Israeli tourist was caught lighting fires in Los Glaciares National Park in the Argentinian Patagonia a couple of days ago. Now, Argentinian authorities are reporting that they found M26 IM grenades. Excuse me. IM grenades used by the Israeli military spread around Lake Epuyen in Chubut as well. These grenades found in Patagonia that caused huge fires is an M26 IM manufactured in Israel. It is used by the Israeli Defense Force. Two Israelis caught setting up the fires. So actual Israeli operatives on the ground, Israeli military equipment being used to start the fires. Why is Israel turning up in Argentina? Because they want to get rid of President Milei and reinstitute a puppet government that would give the Israelis carte blanche to operate in their country. But the Argentinians ain't having that shit. So now the Israelis are trying to destroy Argentina. The newspaper El Periódico suggests that the massive fires currently raging in Argentina were started by Israelis. That's right. This is how you know the riots in Iran are Mossad and CIA sponsored. See? And of course, they're Mossad and CIA sponsored. And I actually heard talking heads in the mainstream media on Fox News and CNN, both referring to Ayatollah Khomeini the same way they referred to Muammar Gaddafi as a ruthless dictator who kills his own people. That's their standard lie when they want to get rid of a country's leader in order to put in a puppet government. This is how you know the riots in Iran are Mossad and CIA sponsored. 2 hospitals and medical centers were attacked. Economic infrastructure was targeted, including attacks on 26 banks. 25 mosques were attacked and set on fire. Besieged bases and police facilities were attacked. 48 fire trucks were set on fire. Rioters attacked the firefighters themselves who were coming to extinguish the fires. Iranians don't attack their own infrastructure. What's going on in Iran is clearly not a spontaneous indigenous protest, but a foreign Israeli/American, that will be American deep state, campaign to destabilize the country, probably in preparation for an attack. These are Mossad, CIA terrorists trying to destroy. Damn it, I hate when the bottom gets cut out like that. Trying to destroy Iran from within. You see what I mean? I told you, the Israeli operatives within the country are the ones turning up because they're destroying vital infrastructure. And this is why Ayatollah Khomeini, as he catches them, is having them beaten and killed. You see what I mean? So from the time I heard about riots in Iran, knowing that Iran was preparing to engage Israel, I knew that those riots were Israeli-led from within. Had to be. Have to be. And based on the facts of what they've been targeting, it seems like an enemy infiltration operation. But I don't think it's going to work. I don't think it's going to work. And I believe that this will be an opportunity for Ayatollah Khomeini to become a hero amongst his people by ridding the country of all the foreign spies and foreign infiltrators who have infiltrated their country and is essentially holding their people hostage. Because it wasn't no Israelis that traveled to Iran to plant the bombs and blow up that port in Iran. Those were Zionist operatives well within the country. And it's funny, there was videos going around showing Iranian soldiers strapping what appeared to be Middle Eastern looking individuals to missiles and then launching them up in the sky. And those individuals were labeled as Israeli spies. So Iran has been, for a long time, dealing with an infiltration problem. And now this turn-up session that the infiltrators are engaging in is giving Ayatollah Khomeini an opportunity to drain his swamp, rid his country of the Zionist operatives. Now, Argentina is erupting in protest as people chant to kick out Israelis, kick Zionism out. The people of Chile and Argentina are pissed, and Israeli tourists set fire to Patagonia. This is Zionism's reckoning. And they were also getting kicked out of Russia, too. Putin was kicking them out of Russia. And Putin was kicking them out of Russia for fear of sleeper cells being amongst those Israeli citizens. Because these countries have to get these Zionist operatives out of their country and out of their populations because they pose an internal threat. And a country cannot fight a war on two fronts, external and internal threats. So Russia's taking preemptive action. Now, speaking of Russia, Russia has been taking some very aggressive posturing against NATO and the European Union. And that's all over the whole Ukraine thing, right? But now Trump is also beefing with the European Union over Greenland because Trump keeps saying he wants to take Greenland. So what's happening now is the European Union is under military threat from Trump, and they're under military threat from Putin. And they don't have strong enough militaries to fight two wars against two of the world's biggest military superpowers. So when Trump says he's going to take Greenland the hard way, if he decided to send a dozen aircraft carriers and a couple of battalions of ground forces into Greenland, it wouldn't be a goddamn thing the European Union could or would do, except get on the internet and talk shit, of course, because that's all they're able to do. They can't fight Trump. They can't fight our military. So they'll just get online and try to demonize them and turn people against them. And so because of the beef with the EU that Trump has over Greenland and the beef with the EU that Russia has over Ukraine, the European Union is now about to be punked if Trump, in fact, takes Greenland. Now, this is an old school map that shows the North Pole almost to the center and the actual layout of the continents. This is exactly how the Earth actually looks. It's a flat plane. It's not a spinning ball. Where the fuck is my mouse? Here we go. But first things first, and this is why I teach flat Earth, and I want you guys to understand that the Earth is flat and there is no fucking globe. It's a lie. And here's a couple of proofs. But the flight paths prove it more than anything. Here's the flight path on the globe Earth from Australia to Chile. And it goes all the way up through the US and then all the way down to South America. Why don't they just hop across the Pacific? Because on the globe Earth, it would seem like this would be the shorter distance. But because Earth is flat, this is how it straightens out. From Australia down through the United States, all the way down to the southern tip of South America. Right? So now in understanding this is the actual layout of the Earth. And of course, this is the jet stream on a globe. Makes no sense. Jet stream on a flat Earth makes perfect sense. Right? But now that we know the layout, here's what's interesting. The United States is taking the oil, right, from Venezuela. And that oil is going to be sold to BRICS nations, and the proceeds from those oil sales are going to go back into the hands of the Venezuelan people. And the way the American people are going to benefit is a lot of that oil, if you look at this yellow arrow right here, is going to be shipped up to Texas to the oil refineries, and we will have cheap gas, even cheaper gas, because there'll be a larger supply of fuel. But if you draw a straight line from Venezuela all the way up to Greenland, what you see is if you continue, you end up in Russia. So Trump wants to take Greenland because this would be the shortest shipping route to Russia from Venezuela. So this would be the route that the oil tankers take. And Trump needs control of Greenland because Greenland is going to be used as a refueling port. As you can see, it's right in the path. So Trump wants Greenland so he can sell that Venezuelan oil to Russia, and not only Russia, but to China down here. Meanwhile, the European Union in the white circle is cut off. Israel is on the fritz of being a failed state. And Trump's out here chasing oil. But that's why he wants Greenland. That's why he needs to have Greenland. Because he needs that shipping lane to get to the Russians. So the whole Venezuela thing ties into all of this because Trump it gave Trump and Putin the ability to pose as enemies when they're doing business together. And they're a lot cooler with one another than we are being made to believe. And that crude oil now here's the reason for selling the crude to Russia. Because Russia also has oil refineries like Texas does. So when that oil gets shipped from Venezuela, stops in Greenland for refueling, and goes on to Russia, Russia has their own refineries as well. So they will then refine that crude oil into gasoline and diesel and sell it to China for a profit. And the European Union over here, they used to get all their oil from the Middle East. But now that Israel's got the Middle East in turmoil, guess where the European Union is going to have to turn to get their oil? Either from the Russians, the Chinese, or the Venezuelans. And nobody's fucking with them. So the European Union is going to be out of gas and shit out of luck here soon. And thanks to Trump's move in Venezuela with removing Maduro, gas prices are about to go down across the board. And I did get one factor wrong when I was talking about the what Maduro was doing with the Venezuelan oil. Because normally when you got stolen loot, you'll sell it cheap. So I assumed he was selling it cheap and undercutting the rest of the market. But I mean, but in reality, what he was doing was he was overcharging people for that oil, which was limiting oil sales and limiting the amount of labor force needed. Getting tired, y'all. And it's been 3 fucking hours. Jeez Louise. Y'all want to hear something disappointing? It's been 3 hours and I literally got $6 worth of donations tonight. I just gave y'all a whole presentation for 6 hours. And ain't nobody show me no love, man. I got only 2 people show love. That's crazy. Been on the stream for 3 hours. Did I say 6 hours? My bad. 3 hours. I'm tripping. Somebody else hit the Cash App, it looks like. Oh, shit, I'm tripping. Shout out to my brother Arthur. Shout out to my brother Calvert. Arthur says supporting the show. Calvert says donation. Keep doing what you doing. Appreciate you guys for that support. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4 donations, which is cool. So we're at $36. That's awesome. $10 an hour, $12 an hour. That ain't too bad. I mean, if I was flipping burgers at McDonald's, I'd probably be working a little harder, right? So I can't complain. But we're only at 4 and we need one more. We at 4 and we need one more. So where is that lucky contestant number 1? Where are you? You check the Venmo, nothing in the Venmo. Let me double check the PayPal. Make sure I'm not missing shit. Shout out to my good brother Lee 14224. He says support for Wednesday's show. Appreciate you, brother Lee. So when I say the truth is inverted, a lot of what you're being shown is the opposite. So you're being shown Trump beefing with Putin and playing grab ass with Netanyahu. Well, in reality, Trump's playing grab ass with Putin and he's beefing with Netanyahu. It's the opposite. Oh shit. Looks like we got our 5th supporter on the board and Cash App actually notified me. Shout out to Nick the artist for the donation. Appreciate you, Nick. So that's 5. That's 5. We're up to $41. That's what's up. That's what's up. That's love, man. I appreciate y'all. I'm going to have to start shouting out the numbers again because when I used to shout out the numbers, they used to be, I used to accumulate a lot more, a lot quicker. I don't know. I stopped shouting out the numbers because I didn't want people to feel like small donations didn't count and only the big ones did. So I just started treating everybody equally. But fuck that. I'm shouting you out now. I'm telling you. I'm telling what you're putting on the board. Not because I want to embarrass you, but I'd rather embarrass myself and let people know how little I'm making off these shows, even though I put hours of work into putting it together and hours of work into presenting it. Because this is how passionate I am about the information. Am I on screen? Because there's such a lag. Yeah. This is how passionate I am about the information because I see a lot of people, both intelligent and not so intelligent, falling for the false narratives that are being broadcast on the surface. Shout out to Josephine with the Cash App. She says, dozed off, but here now. I mean, not the Cash App, sorry, the Venmo. Appreciate you. She said, dozed off, but here now. Well, I appreciate you being here, my sister. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you taking the time to lend some support. You know, it's my slow season, so I could really use it. I mean, I won't drown without it, but you know, work is work, and who doesn't want to get paid, right? But the people that are being projected, especially what you're seeing on the mainstream media, alternative media, it's a little different because we actually get a little closer to the truth, even though most of the big conservative commentators would tell you that Russia and America are enemies. We're not. Trump and Putin are fighting the same enemy, and they have the same agenda. And with Iran posturing itself to destroy Israel, and the European Union losing that American funding and that American military support, and being threatened by Russia, they're about to collapse in on themselves. And without Israel and the European Union, the fiat currency system is halfway gone. It's halfway gone. And once the BRICS nations establish the quantum financial system, and America can then switch to a gold-backed currency to participate in the quantum financial system, then you'll see the fiat currency Federal Reserve System completely disappear. Oh, shit. Now we got some cash apps rolling in. That's what's up. Shout out to Artistic Eyes. Says, great works. Appreciate your Artistic Eyes. You guys are awesome, man. You guys are awesome. We counting up now. We are at 51, y'all. We're at 51. Cool. I say if we can get to $60 for 3 hours, $20 an hour, I think that's fair. Nowadays, that shit's like minimum wage. But I think that's fair. I can live with that. But I do appreciate you guys supporting the show, though. And I do appreciate y'all hearing me out. So in reading the chessboard, you got to see how moves are being made. And if you don't understand why Trump wouldn't defend Israel if Iran started leveling the place, that's because Russia, who is basically the military superpower backing Iran, Russia allowed Trump to take out Maduro in Venezuela. So Trump is going to allow the Russian proxy of Iran to take out Israel unimpeded. Because at the end of the day, Israel got to go. And they're turning up in Argentina, they're turning up in Iran, and they're going to start turning up in other countries because they know that their homeland is about to be vaporized. And they're trying everything they can to stop it. But they won't be able to. Because Israel has to go, and the world will celebrate, and America will finally be free from the stranglehold of the Israeli Mossad terror cells that have been holding this country hostage as long as we've been alive. Remember, it was Mossad agents that carried out 9/11. Remember the Israeli art students 2 weeks before the 9/11 attacks, and I showed you guys the photograph. And they were photographed on a floor inside the World Trade Center next to boxes and boxes and boxes that were labeled with something, but somebody in the military recognized what the boxes said, and it turns out they were components for detonators. And Trump, in knowing Israel did 9/11, he also knows that he has to tread lightly and he can't be too hands-on with the wiping out of Israel. So that'll be left up to Iran and Turkey and Lebanon, because they're bombing the shit out of Lebanon right now. But again, most people don't even realize that they're looking at a chessboard when they try to analyze these series of events. So they're unable to see the connections, connect the dots, and make proper assessments, because they're seeing all these connected events as separate events that have nothing to do with each other, when these events are actions and reactions of each other. The action of Trump not fully arming Israel the way he used to, coupled with Iran making the threats against Israel. Hang on a second. Yeah. Coupled with Iran making the threats against Israel, that's the catalyst for this turn up of the Zionists in Argentina, and the turn up of the infiltrators, the Zionist infiltrators in Iran. That's why they're doing it, because they're trying to cripple Iran from within. Just like they came over here and tried to cripple America from within by co-opting the Democratic Party and as many Republicans as they could and having them push their agenda. So you got to understand first things first, you're looking at a chessboard. Second thing second, what's being broadcast to you in the media is the truth inverted. And third things third, watch how each country operates with the next, and you'll figure out very quickly who are our friends and who are our enemies. Because if you listen to the mainstream media, they'll tell you that your enemies are your friends and your friends are your enemies. But in reality, your perceived enemies are the ones who truly are your friends. Look at how they spent the last 10 years demonizing Trump and demonizing Trump and demonizing Trump. And Trump's been nothing but a friend to the American people. And even such a good friend, he's been a friend to other people like the Venezuelans. Now he's about to do something nice for the Mexicans by giving them their country back. The Cubans, same shit. But you let the mainstream media and the Democrat Party tell it, he's the worst thing to ever walk the earth. Oh, scene. They is Israel. Israel's bombing Lebanon. I had said it before I said the they. That's why I said they, because I had already mentioned that it was Israel, but I think you might have missed that part. But that's okay. It's Israel. Damn, I lost my train of thought again. Hold on. I got to get it back. All right, I got it. I got it. But you let the mainstream media tell it. Trump's the worst thing that ever walked the face of the earth. Mind you, the same media talking heads that constantly tell you Trump bad, Trump bad, Trump bad, everything they say bad about Trump is either a lie, mischaracterization, misinterpretation, or just flat out disinformation. And these very same people that would prefer for you to advocate for the Democratic Party with all their infinite media knowledge and impeccable journalism, they never damn it. I keep losing my train of thought. It's getting late. I got to shut this down, man. I'm just getting out of hand. Oh, okay. I got it back. I just had to hear what I said prior. Yeah, so the same media talking heads that pretend to know what's good for you and constantly tell you Trump bad, Trump bad, Trump bad, Democrats good, Democrats good, Democrats good, they still, in all their infinite wisdom and journalistic talents, they can't tell you one good thing the Democrats have done for the American people. I can tell you a laundry list of things that Democrats have done for the foreign infiltrators and the illegal aliens, but I can't think of one single thing they did for the actual American people because they're not here to serve the American people. You seen that slide with the congresswoman. For those of you who tuned in late, you just bless you with this real quick before we get up out of here. This is who the Democratic Party is, and this is why they would rather have you out there fighting ICE and defending illegals than actually pushing for what's good for America. This bitch right here. I'm a proud Guatemalan before I am American. Democrat Representative Delia Ramirez at Summit in Mexico. And again, when you have American congressional representatives openly swearing and declaring their allegiance to a foreign country and saying they're that before they're an American, they don't need to be in our government. They don't need to be in our Congress. Bigger than Quos said they already did. It's over. Checkmate. Nobody. I'm not sure what you're referencing, and then you put the laughing face. I'm not sure what you're talking about, but if you disagree with me, I sure would like to know what I'm missing. Because we get a lot of these wokey doke motherfuckers that only know 1/10 of the whole picture and think they got it all figured out, and you can't tell them shit because they'll sit there and overtalk you and argue with you. So I'm not sure if you're agreeing with me or disagreeing with me, but if you are disagreeing with me, I sure would like to know what I said that, inspired you to disagree with me. I'm not sure. And if you are agreeing with me, I also would like to know what part of what I said you're actually agreeing with, because as of right now, I really don't have the context to what you were saying. So maybe you're trolling. I don't know. I never seen you before, so can't call it. So let me know something. But anyway, your friends who pretend to be your friends are your enemies, and your enemies are your friends when it comes to this political thing, because Trump is dealing with an infiltration and he's fighting infiltration with infiltration. That's why in that Q post, it mentioned JFK secret societies, because it's infiltration versus infiltration. Trump and the Patriots infiltrated the deep state, exposed them, and threw them out of there. And the deep state got into power because they infiltrated our government. This is how we ended up with all these foreign agents, literal foreign agents declaring allegiance to foreign countries in our Congress. That's treasonous, in fact. I believe under the Constitution, swearing your allegiance to a foreign country before America while serving in American government, especially in a lawmaker capacity, I believe that's treasonous. But who knows? Who knows? So all this whole Trump kissing Israel's ass and Trump's owned by Israel, just remember, that's what the optics are showing you. That's what they're showing you with the optics, because the fake news media is starting to catch on that the majority of Americans don't like Israel. So now they're going to highlight every good thing Trump says about Israel, and they're going to broadcast every half a penny that Trump gives Israel and make it seem like Trump is some sort of Israelophile, when everything he's doing is actually working to undermine them. And you mark my words, when Ayatollah Khomeini is done with them Israeli Mossad agents in his country, he's bombing the fuck out of Israel. And I can't wait to see it. I can't wait. And what I really want to see is how the rest of the world is going to react. How passionately will the people be cheering? Because I know I'll be cheering, because this will be a long time coming. So just keep that in mind. When you're looking at mainstream politics and mainstream media, you're looking at the truth inverted. Thus, you're being sold lies, but the lies are the exact opposite of what the truth is. So even from the lie itself, all you have to do is reverse it, and you got the truth. Bigger than quos. I'm still trying to figure out what the hell you're talking about, and you ain't said nothing, so I'm not sure what's happening. I don't know if you used the last of your energy to type that shit and find that smiley face or that laughing face, and then you fell asleep or something. I don't know. But I sure would like to know what the hell you're talking about. But anyway, let's see. We got one on the Venmo, one on the PayPal. Trying to see how many supporters we actually got tonight. I think we're at 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Holy cow, we're at 7 supporters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cash App and Venmo, 6, 7. Yeah, so we made it to 7 supporters tonight. How about it? How's about it? I think that's pretty awesome, man. You guys are amazing. And I'm amazingly drowsy. I just drank a whole red. This is how tired I am. I just drank a whole Red Bull. 20 ounces of Red Bull. And I'm still having brain farts and falling asleep with my eyes open. So that tells me it's time to get the fuck on. So don't forget, guys, follow me over on Rumble. If they zap me over on YouTube on Citizen Man TV, all of my streams that cannot be up on YouTube are available on Rumble. I got over 500 videos of long form content that you can really get educated with and entertained at the same time. So get over to Rumble, follow me on Rumble, and support your boy. Citizen Man channel. Make sure you get over to the Citizen Man channel, because what I'm about to start doing is a lot of those short form videos that I'm uploading to Citizen Man TV. I'm going to divert course and start uploading them to the Citizen Man channel, so you guys can have some content when you get over there, and maybe we can grow that subscriber number a little bigger. But as of right now, it's just used as a landing pad for the subscribers that are going to come looking for me if I ever get zapped off Citizen Man TV. So if that includes all of you, I suggest you get in the description box, click the link to the Citizen Man channel, get over there and hit subscribe, and click the notification bell. So if anything happens over here, I can let you know over there. All right. And of course, last but not least, I want to give a big shout out to my sister Josephine, my good brother Lee14224, my brother Nick the artist. Who else we got? Artistic Eyes. So we got two artists in the Cash App. That's dope. Calvert Wright and Arthur. Shout out to you. I don't know why I said Calvert's full name, but Calvert and Arthur. Shout out to all you guys for, and, oh, D. Allen, my bad, and D. Allen. Shit, I almost forgot my man D. Allen. So shout out to you guys for all the love. Shout out to y'all for all the support. I appreciate you guys being here. I really have fun doing these streams. I really enjoy the interactions because you guys seem to know a whole hell of a lot, and you still find time to listen to me and are still willing and open-minded enough to learn something new, and that shit means a lot to me to know that so many of you guys are willing to listen, hear me out, try to understand my position, whether you agree or not. But I've built my credibility, so I have such strong credibility when it comes to this type of shit that it's hard to doubt your boy. It's hard to be a naysayer because I almost always make the naysayers eat their words. And I love doing it. That's why I don't mind the naysayers. Yes, tell me I'm wrong. So when you get proven right, I'll have even more credibility. That's how the game goes, man. That's how the cookie crumbles. But guys, we're at 3 supporters. If we can get, we're at 7 supporters. If we can get 3 more. Oh, shit, we're at 8 now. Shout out to my sister, Kenya. For the Cash App, she says, you're right. Russia made the next move. And shout out to Elsine. Oh, shit, sister Elsine on the Venmo. Appreciate you, Elsine. And listen, if you guys, and this is not to call anybody out or embarrass anybody or anything like that. But what I'm saying is, if you guys are struggling financially, because I know it's a tough time of year right after the holidays, and you can't afford to overextend yourself, by no means do I expect you to or require you to. You know what I'm saying? But if you balling and you got it like that, give me $5, man. Stop bullshitting. All right. But anyway, we're at 9 supporters right now. We're at 9. We're 1 away from 10. If we can't hit 10 supporters within the next 3 minutes, because we're at 3 hours and 27 minutes and 7 seconds. So 3 hours and 30 minutes. If we can't hit 1 more supporter by 3:30, I'm going to be sad. I'm going to take the rest of the week off, I swear. Because we made it all the way to 9. And shout out to Kenya and Elsine. Thanks to you guys. We made it all the way to 9. And all we need is uno más. Dame un peso, por favor. Dame un peso, por favor. Show some love. I need some love. I want 10. We have 9. We have nuevo. Hey, I want 10. I want 10. We only had 9. Oh, man, if this could be a 10 supporter night, I'll be so happy. I'll be so goddamn happy. Oh, shit. I think it just happened. Arthur, my man Arthur. He says, fuck it, ballin', LOL. Appreciate you, Arthur. I know there's some ballers out there hiding. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Put that C note on there. It's okay. Listen, I will invest it well. I promise. But Arthur, I can't count you as a 10th supporter because you supported already, man. I'm sorry. I'm going to keep your money, but I can't count it. Because you are not the 10th supporter. You are actually the 2nd Cash App supporter, but you did give me my 10th donation. So we did get 10 donations tonight. So that's awesome. But again, I don't know if I explained it or if you heard me when I explained it before, but I wanted 10. I would like to get 10 separate individuals, right? Because if I leave the door open for one person to donate multiple times, one person, and I say I only need 10 donations rather than 10 donors, what happens is somebody could come in with a hot $10 and hit the Cash App 10 times, and now I got my 10 donations and I got to shut the fuck up. So to maximize the probability of, accumulating more in donations, to maximize the donation revenue, I make the rules to where it's 10 separate individuals. But since we haven't had 10 in such a long time, I do appreciate you dropping that 10th donation, and I will make an exception for you tonight, Brother Arthur. So thank you for that love, and thank you for that support, and God bless you for being a baller, man. I hope you enjoy life to the fullest, and you continue your success. I never hate on a man that's doing better than me. I look up to a man that does better than me because I want to get like him. If I hate on him, that means I don't want to be like him, which means I'm happy being where I'm at. And, this is why a lot of poor people, don't get me started, but this is why a lot of poor people, oh shit, we hit 330 and we got 10 donations. That's what's up. But this is why a lot of poor people in America especially stay poor, because they're taught to hate success and hate the wealthy. And if you hate something, that means you would run away from it before you aspire to become it. So they train the poor people to hate the rich people with this communist socialist garbage. And the poor people never really get out of that scarcity mindset and try to acquire anything to become wealthier. So they remain in poverty. So the level in life that they should be striving to make it to, they're taught to hate people at that level. Thus, they never strive to make it to that level. It's a very, very demonic psychological game. It's like brainwashing people to self-sabotage. But anyway, I gotta go, guys. I appreciate y'all being here. I appreciate the love. I appreciate the support. What day is it? Wednesday. So we got another one coming up on Friday. So if I get some free time in the studio tomorrow night, I'll probably drop you guys maybe 2 or 3 more uploads. I'll try to do 2 uploads and 1 short on the off nights. If I can give you guys that, I feel like that's an adequate amount of work, because that's what the channel needs now. Because I have regular viewers now that come to the show, that show up. I see people showing up to every show, and they're rarely ever absent, which means there's a consistent viewership. So the more content I throw out there now, hopefully I get enough viewers to grab onto it, share it, hit the like button, get it out there, and the numbers will start to grow a little faster. So I promise you guys, I had promised you guys a long time ago that I was going to start doing short form videos. And well, now that I have the time to do it, I'm going to fucking do it, by golly. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you guys for being here from the bottom of my heart, deep in la corazón. I want to thank you guys for being here. Y'all are the greatest people I know on earth. And no one has supported me since I've started on YouTube more than you guys have. And it means everything, because I'm really passionate about this. I know a lot. I understand a lot when it comes to politics and how the world works. And I see so many people who are, in fact, of higher intelligence and should know better, but they don't, because they're being kept ignorant to certain facts that would change their minds. So now that we have, thank you, Elsine. So now that we have, now that we have an opportunity with social media to speak and put these facts out there for people who are missing them, we have a golden opportunity to actually change minds and open minds. I don't want to change your mind. I want to open your mind. That's the thing, because your mind is going to change on its own once it's open to new information. Ain't that how I got a lot of you guys to jump on the flat earth and start taking more notice to the flat earth? I always started out my flat earth streams by saying, listen, you believe what you want to believe. But I'm going to tell you what I believe and why I believe it. And what happened in me sharing why I believed it, many of you guys took such a deep understanding, got such a deep understanding of what I was saying that the curiosity in you kicked in and you went and did your research and came back and said, you know what, Citizen Man, that globe shit is bullshit. I'm not going to call myself a flat earther just yet because I'm not ready to get fired and locked in a mental institution, but the globe is bullshit. So that in itself is a huge step forward because initially when you bring up flat earth to people, they scoff at it and they get triggered like liberals when you bring up Trump. So, like I said, I think you guys are awesome. I appreciate the open minds. I appreciate the willingness to listen. Definitely appreciate the love and the support. And I will continue to give you guys content. And hopefully, we continue to grow the channel. And by maybe this time next year, we'll be up 100-fold. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate the love, appreciate the support, and I will see you guys on the next one. Citizen Man, out.